Cretaceous, from Tyrannosaurus Rex to WarGreymon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Hook and Dragon. A fight between two noobs? Test drive. Please read on. This is a nest of dinosaur eggs. Judging from the diameter of the eggs, it is estimated that they are eggs laid by some smaller medium-sized dinosaurs. The owner of the nest of dinosaur eggs is not at home at the moment. He is probably out looking for food. However, since their eggs are nested here, it means that their range of activities is nearby and will never be too far away. Liu Xing has no sense of crisis at all. Seeing so many dinosaur eggs in the earth nest, his mouth is watering and he moves in without hesitation. He has never tasted the taste of dinosaur eggs, but his intuition tells him that this thing must be delicious. Crack! Liu Xing picked up a dinosaur egg, opened his mouth and bit its eggshell into pieces, and swallowed it with relish. The dinosaur embryo in it has not yet fully developed, and it has entered Liu Xing's stomach. One dinosaur egg is not enough, so Liu Xing picked up the second dinosaur egg and ate it up in a hurry. Not far away, Chu Xu, who was secretly following Liu Xing, was speechless when he saw this scene. Did Liu Xing treat this as a buffet? Taking advantage of the fact that the owner is not at home, it would be fine to steal a few dinosaur eggs to enjoy them, but this guy actually stayed there and ate them openly. After eating 3 dinosaur eggs in a row, Liu Xing's belly was full and he smacked his lips with satisfaction. Liu Xing wanted to share such delicious dinosaur eggs with his mother and his elder brother and second sister when he got back, so he took a dinosaur egg in one mouthful and held another dinosaur egg with his 2 short hands. In the past, it was always his elder brother who went out hunting and brought back a lot of delicious food. Now it's finally his turn to bring back food. Cool. Just as Liu Xing was about to leave with 2 dinosaur eggs, a sharp and piercing cry sounded. Within Chu Xu's telepathic perception range, he had already captured an adult dinosaur running towards the location of the dinosaur egg nest. Look, the owner is back. This is a hook-handed dinosaur, a small omnivorous dinosaur of the genus hook-handed dinosaur of the family Alvarezsauridae. The body length of the hook-handed dragon is about 2 meters, the head height is 1 meter, and the weight is about 50 kilograms. Its appearance is highly similar to that of birds. It is covered with dense feathers. Its characteristic features are a pair of short and strong forelimbs and hook-shaped claws on them. In contrast, Liu Xing, who is less than 1 year old, is only 1 meter long and half a meter high, but his weight is not much different from that of the hook-handed dragon. Knock! From a distance, the hook-handed dragon discovered the traces of the intruder, so he rushed home in a hurry and ran into Liu Xing, who was about to leave. Little thief, come and die. Seeing that Liu Xing took away his 2 dinosaur eggs, the hook-handed dragon cried angrily and rushed towards him fiercely, with a completely desperate attitude. Liu Xing was startled by the sudden rush of the hook-handed dragon, and accidentally let go of his mouth and hands, and the 2 dinosaur eggs fell to the ground, knocking a big hole in the eggshell, and the egg liquid inside flowed all over the floor. Knock! The 2 of his children died in the egg, and the hook-handed dragon was furious. He jumped up and pounced directly on Liu Xing. His sharp beak pecked at his head desperately, pecking his skin and flesh. The sharp claws of his forelimbs scratched Liu Xing's body crazily, tearing a series of cracks. Liu Xing turned around and ran away in pain, but the hook-handed dragon chased him all the way, as if he would not stop until Liu Xing paid for his children's lives. After being chased for a distance, Liu Xing finally couldn't bear it anymore. Rabbits bite when they are forced into a corner, let alone Tyrannosaurus Rex. When the hook-handed dragon pounced on his head again, Liu Xing endured the pain and fought back, opening his mouth and biting the hook-handed dragon's slender neck. The most important hunting technique he learned from the dragon mother was to attack the enemy's most vulnerable neck. With Chu Xu's eyesight, it can be seen that the hook-handed dragon still has the upper hand. With its beak, claws, and claws, it continuously attacks Liu Xing and suppresses him steadily. The wounds on its body are getting more and more. However, these wounds are not a big deal for Liu Xing. Liu Xing only uses its mouth to bite. Once the hook-handed dragon is bitten, its skin and flesh will be torn, and blood will flow, gradually affecting the action of the hook-handed dragon. This is the difference in weapons. The hook-handed dragon seems to attack fiercely, but it can't cause much damage to Liu Xing, who has thick skin and flesh. On the contrary, Liu Xing's mouthful of sharp teeth is enough to cause heavy damage to the hook-handed dragon. More than 10 minutes later, the hook-handed dragon has shown signs of fatigue, and its offensive is far less swift than at the beginning. Roar! Liu Xing, who seized the opportunity, bit the hook-handed dragon's neck again. This time, he used all his strength to bite tightly and didn't let go no matter how the hook-handed dragon struggled. Gradually, the strength of the hook-handed dragon's struggle became weaker and weaker, until it finally stopped moving and died of suffocation in Liu Xing's mouth. But Liu Xing still didn't dare to relax. He waited for a few minutes and found that the hook-handed dragon showed no signs of movement at all, so he let go of his mouth. The body of the hook-handed dragon collapsed on the ground. Roar! After Liu Xing confirmed that the other party was dead, he couldn't help but feel heroic in his chest. He stepped on the body of the hook-handed dragon and roared to the sky. It would be more perfect if a few lines of the second-grade style were added at this time. Giggle. As a result, Liu Xing was handsome for only 3 seconds, and another sharp and angry cry sounded. Liu Xing looked in the direction of the sound, and surprisingly, another hook-handed dragon appeared in front of him. Liu Xing just killed a female hook-handed dragon, and this hook-handed dragon that came late was her husband. It's over. Liu Xing tried his best to kill the female hook-handed dragon, but another powerful male hook-handed dragon attacked him, and he had no strength to fight it. Liu Xing, goodbye, Mom, you don't have to cook for me tonight. Crack! The enemy who stole dinosaur eggs and killed his wife was right in front of him. The male hook-handed dragon was furious and rushed towards Liu Xing. Huh? However, before the male hook-handed dragon could get close to Liu Xing, he was hit by a ball of fire that suddenly fell from the sky. In an instant, his feathers were ignited and he turned into a fireball and rolled on the ground. The last round of trial was pushed. Please read it. Chapter 27, The Peak of a Short Dragon's Life, the Cretaceous Pleiadian Extinction Event. Liu Xing? Liu Xing was frightened by the sudden scene. Facing the burning sensation of the flames, he was so frightened that he ran away in a panic. While running, Liu Xing suddenly bumped into something and stumbled to the ground. When Liu Xing got up again, he found that he had just bumped into his eldest brother. Although his eldest brother always bullied him, with him here, Liu Xing felt much safer. How Liu Xing hurriedly gestured to Chu Xu with his teeth and claws, trying to express what kind of frightening scene he had just seen. Chu Xu secretly laughed. It was estimated that Liu Xing would never think that the ball of fire that just fell from the sky was his masterpiece. When Chu Xu and Liu Xing returned to the scene, the male hook-handed dragon had been burned to death. The whole horrible charred corpse fell to the ground, emitting wisps of white smoke. Liu Xing didn't dare to approach the charred corpse of the male hook-handed dragon, fearing that he would end up like him, so he only carefully picked up the corpse of the female hook-handed dragon. When he came to the corpse of the female hook-handed dragon, Liu Xing used his hands and feet to gesture to Chu Xu, telling him that this was the prey he had hunted alone. I know. You are awesome, I'll give you a thumbs up. Chu Xu raised one of his front paws and gave Liu Xing a thumbs up. Although Liu Xing didn't understand the meaning of this gesture, he felt his elder brother's admiration for him, and immediately raised his tail in triumph. Next, he would bring his trophy home to show it to Long Ma and his second sister, who would surely be impressed by his strength. Chu Xu extinguished the flames on the male hook-handed dragon, picked up his corpse and returned with Liu Xing. On the other side, Long Ma realized that Liu Xing was missing, so she had to give up hunting and took Xianyu to look for this little son who made Long Ma worried. Suddenly, Long Ma smelled a smell of blood, so she hurried over. Not long after, she saw her two sons coming together, each holding prey in their mouths. Long Ma was not surprised that her eldest son could hunt prey. But Long Ma was really surprised that her younger son, whose hair had not yet grown, could hunt prey. Long Ma also found that Liu Xing was injured all over his body, and the blood that flowed out had dried up. It was conceivable what kind of fierce battle he had experienced. However, Liu Xing didn't care about it at all. After seeing Long Ma, he immediately ran over quickly and showed Long Ma and Crescent Moon the corpse of the female hook-handed dragon in his mouth, suggesting wildly, "Look! This is the prey I caught." Long Ma gently stretched out her tongue and licked Liu Xing's wound. Crescent Moon, who had not yet captured prey alone, also happily circled around Liu Xing's trophy, drooling with greed. Roar! Liu Xing once again raised his head to the sky and roared with a full of middle school meaning, which echoed in the forest for a long time. He felt that at this moment, he had reached the peak of his short dragon life. Even his big brother beside him was eclipsed. Boom boom. The sudden earth-shaking roar and the sudden dazzling white light enveloped the entire world. Chu Xu didn't have time to feel any pain, let alone react, before he was swallowed by the white light, and the entire world he was in evaporated. I had this dream again. Before dawn, Chu Xu woke up from his sleep, his chest heaving violently, his heartbeat accelerated, and he was still a little frightened. I don't know since when, Chu Xu often dreams of the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event when he sleeps at night. Everything is like a movie, constantly playing in front of his eyes. Although he is still conscious, he can't wake up. The first thing that caught Chu Xu's eyes was an endless space. This is the solar system, the orbit between Mars and Jupiter. The two asteroids that met on a narrow road collided violently, producing an astonishing explosion. After the explosion, both asteroids were shattered into hundreds of huge asteroid fragments that continued to float in space. For the vast solar system, this asteroid collision was just a small episode in the long years since its birth, which was insignificant. But 100 million years later, the butterfly effect caused by this incident acted on the small Earth and brought about a large-scale species extinction that was unprecedented in history. After space, Chu Xu's perspective gradually shifted to the familiar Earth. It has been 100 million years since the collision of the two asteroids. This is the Maastrichtian period of the late Cretaceous period, and this is the Laramidia subcontinent of ancient North America. Chu Xu can even see himself, as well as Long Ma, Xian Yu and Liu Xing. At that time, he had already lived independently, while Xian Yu and Liu Xing still lived with Long Ma, and they had all grown up. Including Chu Xu's family, all creatures are still living as usual. Carnivorous animals lurk in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to hunt. Herbivorous animals forage everywhere, alert to enemies. Pterosaurs and birds fly in the sky, and mosasaurs and fish swim in the seabed. Boom boom boom. But all this came to an abrupt end. With a roar that resounded through the heavens and the earth, the sky turned red like blood, the mountains and rivers lost their color, and the sun and the moon lost their light. A fragment of an asteroid with a diameter of about 10 kilometers fell from the sky, turning into a meteorite and rushing into the atmosphere at an alarming speed. At the same time, almost all animals raised their heads at the same time, watching the meteorite representing destruction fall, and finally landed on the southern coast of the Laramidia subcontinent. Boom boom boom. Such a huge meteorite hit the surface of the Earth, instantly releasing 4.2 times 10 to the power of 23 joules of energy, equivalent to the explosive equivalent of 100 trillion tons of TNT explosives, comparable to the simultaneous explosion of 2 million Big Ivan hydrogen bombs, and eventually left a 300-kilometer diameter and 40-kilometer deep meteorite crater on the Yucatan Peninsula in later generations, the famous Chicxulub meteorite crater. Near the impact point of the meteorite, it is unknown how many creatures were wiped out in an instant, and its explosion shock wave radiated the entire North America. The subsequent magnitude 12 earthquake, super tsunami, volcanic eruption, and storm further dragged a wider range of creatures into hell. What followed was a true nuclear winter, with a large amount of sulfide entering the atmosphere, blocking the sun, causing a sharp drop in temperature, and forming acid rain, which lasted for decades. The surviving plants were unable to photosynthesize and withered away, herbivorous animals that feed on plants starved to death, and carnivorous animals gradually died. Not only dinosaurs, but also pterosaurs, enantiornithines, ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, ammonites, and other species accounting for 70% of the total number of species in the late Cretaceous became extinct and disappeared forever in the long river of history. Horizontal ellipsis. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. 63 million years of extinction cycle, the dry season has officially arrived. Test drive, please read later. Is this the future? Chu Xu, who finally woke up from the extremely real dream, muttered to himself. This should be the so-called curse of knowledge. When you already know that something is about to happen, then you can't imagine that you don't know about it. In his previous life, Chu Xu had studied the mass extinction of dinosaurs in depth, and combined with several other mass extinction events in the history of the Earth, he came up with a rule The average extinction of organisms presents a periodicity of about 63 million years. The first was the Cambrian Ordovician extinction event, the first mass extinction event on Earth, in which more than 80% of species disappeared. The second was the Ordovician Silurian extinction event, when about 85% of species became extinct due to global cooling and a sharp drop in sea levels. The third was the Devonian Carboniferous extinction event, when another 70% of species disappeared due to further global cooling and a continued drop in sea levels. The third was the Permian Triassic extinction event, the most severe of all mass extinction events, when 96% of species became extinct, including trilobites, the dominant species that had dominated the Earth as early as the Paleozoic era. This was followed by the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event, in which 76% of species disappeared, and dinosaurs became the dominant species of the Mesozoic era. The last was the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, when 70% of species, including dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and mosasaurs, became extinct due to factors such as asteroid impacts and volcanic eruptions. As a result, angiosperms, mammals, and birds became the dominant species of the Cenozoic era. There were 6 mass extinction events, and there were also many smaller-scale extinction events in between, such as the tropical rainforest collapse at the end of the Carboniferous period and the extinction event at the end of the Jurassic period. These large and small events were separated by a cycle of about 63 million years, and 63 million years is roughly the length of time of the basic unit of geological history period. Chu Xu happened to live at the end of the Cretaceous period, which coincided with the end of the 63 million year cycle. I don't know whether to say it's lucky or unfortunate. There's no need to think so much, just live well now. Chu Xu was too lazy to worry about it. If today is the end of the world for dinosaurs, then he must witness this historical moment to solve the extinction of dinosaurs, which was called one of the top 10 unsolved mysteries in the world in his previous life. What's more, with the system in hand, Chu Xu just needs to continue to evolve. What's a meteorite hitting the Earth? It's not impossible to turn into One Punch Man, blow up the meteorite with one punch, and save the dinosaurs. Maybe the subsequent biological history will change dramatically because of this. Dinosaurs continue to dominate the Earth, and it is not certain whether humans will appear. Time flies, and another month has passed in a blink of an eye. The dry season of Laramidia subcontinent has officially arrived. The scarce rainfall for several months has caused the forest vegetation to wither away, and the lakes and rivers have dried up. In addition, Chu Xu can see with the naked eye that there are fewer and fewer prey in the territory. Medium and large herbivorous dinosaurs have begun to migrate collectively, from north to south and from west to east to the humid western interior seaway of North America. Because of the rivers entering the sea, a large area of coastal wetlands and delta plains have been formed in that area. The rivers are crisscrossed and the lakes are dotted, which is the best place to go during the dry season. At the same time, carnivorous dinosaurs will also migrate with a migration of herbivorous dinosaurs. Such spectacular migration scenes often occur on the East African savanna in later generations. They are all actions that animals have to take in order to survive. Needless to say, the dangers involved are very serious. In the past month, hunting has become increasingly difficult for both Longma and Chu Xu. It is not because their hunting skills are not good enough, but because there are fewer prey. A good cook cannot cook without rice. No matter how superb their hunting skills are, how can they hunt without prey? Therefore, Longma has obviously been thinking about migration recently. She often goes out to patrol her territory, confirm the movements of animal groups in the territory, and prepare for migration. The only thing that worries her is that the migration journey is very long, and it takes thousands of kilometers at a time. Can your 3 little Tyrannosaurus Rex hold on? Longma is naturally very relieved about her eldest son, but it is different for Xianyu and Luxing. One aspect is the physical condition of the body, and the other is the uncertain threats from the outside world. They must be extremely cautious. On the other hand, Chu Xu is also busy preparing for the next possible migration. In the past month, he has smoked the raw meat of the prey he hunted in a special way. First, tear the raw meat into small pieces with his claws, then dig a pit and build a bonfire, then cover the flames with hardwood to make the combustion incomplete and produce a lot of black smoke, and finally hang the torn meat strips above the thick smoke for smoking. Smoking for a few days until the meat is completely smoked black, the simple smoked meat is ready, and its shelf life can be up to 3 months. Of course, even if it is rotten meat, Tyrannosaurus Rex can still eat it directly. They have a strong digestive system and immune system that are enough to digest rotten meat and are immune to many pathogens. In addition, the Tyrannosaurus Rex itself has a developed sense of smell, so many paleontologists in later generations even think that they are scavengers. However, Chu Xu still finds it difficult to accept eating rotten meat. Unless he is really about to starve to death and has no choice, there is no need to eat rotten meat. After going out hunting for most of the day today, he didn't see any suitable prey, so Chu Xu had to go back home and went to his secret base where he made and stored smoked meat. The secret base is actually a piece of open space within the core area of the Dragon Mother's territory. There is a homemade smoked meat grill made by Chu Xu. The blazing bonfire produces thick black smoke, which smokes the meat hanging on it to a black and red color, and the meat becomes firm and delicate, very chewy, and the smell is even more fragrant. However, because this area is the core territory of the Dragon Mother and has the smell of an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex, ordinary carnivorous animals dare not approach even if they smell the aroma. There is also a tall and sturdy sycamore tree here. Chu Xu dug a deep tree hole in its trunk and found a stone of similar size to block it. The dry and closed tree hole is where Chu Xu stores the smoked meat. What's going on? However, when Chu Xu came to his secret base for inspection today, he found that the smoked meat grill he had spent a lot of effort to make had fallen apart, the bonfire was extinguished, and the unfinished smoked meat on it had disappeared. There were a lot of messy three-toed footprints of theropods on the ground, and even scattered feathers, indicating that this theft was definitely a gang crime. A round of trial push. Please read, please recommend. Chapter 29, Man-Made Trap, the first lucky person to try it? Fortunately, the smoked meat stored in the tree hole was not discovered. From these traces, Chu Xu judged that the gang of thieves should be a small theropod dinosaur covered with feathers. The number is likely to exceed 10, and the size of the group is not small. It is too late to chase the thieves now. But Chu Xu is not going to let it go. He must make this group of hateful thieves pay the price. Using smoked meat as bait, the gang of thieves will definitely come again. The problem is that Chu Xu can't wait here for them to fall into the trap. So Chu Xu thought about it and decided to show the special skill of the horror upright ape in the future when hunting traps. Chu Xu did it right away. He found a feng shui treasure land nearby and started digging holes on the ground with his hands and feet. After a while, a 2-meter deep hole was dug. Digging a hole is not enough. Even if the thieves accidentally fall into it, they may escape. So Chu Xu broke off some thick and sharp dead branches from the nearby bushes and inserted them deeply into the bottom of the pit. Once the gang of thieves fell into it, they would be stabbed by these dead branches. They would be so scared that they would not be able to escape. One pit was not enough, so Chu Xu dug 2 more pits in 2 places not far from each other, and completed the arrangement of the death trap in the same way. After arranging 3 traps, Chu Xu continued to lay dead branches at the mouth of the trap, and covered it with a thin layer of soil, disguising it as no different from the land next to it. Finally, he used a few pieces of smoked meat from the hole of the sycamore tree as bait and gently placed them at the mouth of the trap, and everything was done. In this dinosaur era when even ancient humans were not yet seen, the appearance of artificial traps was undoubtedly the first time. I don't know which dinosaur was the first lucky one to eat crabs. After the traps were arranged, Chu Xu left the secret base and waited for tomorrow to inspect the results. Soon, the night fell quietly, and in this era without industry and light pollution, a pure and rich starry sky was painted, deep as ink, but as bright as a flower. Throughout the long Cretaceous and even Mesozoic eras, due to the ecological niche squeeze of strong lizard-like animals such as dinosaurs, various small mammals were forced to adapt and evolve the characteristics of burrowing and nocturnal, and developed keen and developed sense of smell, hearing and night vision, and lived a life of hiding during the day and coming out at night. This is also because most lizard-like animals, including dinosaurs, have poor night vision, so for mammals, the dark night is a rare opportunity to breathe. However, even at night, there are still small carnivorous dinosaurs active, which has become a nightmare for mammals. At night, one after another, Troodon came out of their secret nests, gathered together, and communicated with each other with hoarse and low calls. Because of the arrival of the dry season and the scarcity of food, the Troodontosaurs, which used to act alone or in pairs, also began to move in groups, often forming small groups of more than 10 in order to hunt larger prey. Troodontosaur, a small carnivorous dinosaur of the Deinonychus genus Troodontidae, is named for its triangular teeth, which are stable and sharp, and have hooked serrations on the cutting edges. They have forelimbs that form plump wings and slender hind limbs that are good at running. They have sickle-shaped claws that can be freely extended like many dromaeosaur dinosaurs, and their appearance is quite similar to that of Styx raptor. It is 2 meters long, 1 meter tall, and weighs 100 kilograms, which is slightly higher than the lightweight Styx raptor. In fact, the danger level of Troodontosaurs is much higher than that of Styx raptor. The main reason is that they have a higher brain capacity. The ratio of brain to body is very close to that of modern birds, and their senses are particularly developed, so they are regarded as the dinosaurs with the highest IQ. Some paleontologists even believe that if the dinosaurs had not become extinct, the Troodon would have evolved into an animal that replaced humans, the Dino Man, and become the master of the earth. Suddenly, a Troodon seemed to smell a special fragrance coming from afar, stretched its neck high, and its nostrils kept twitching. It was this fragrance again. This Troodon smelled this special fragrance that it had never smelled before last night, so it led the tribe to investigate and found a lot of smoked meat. Although there was still the smell of Tyrannosaurus Rex in this area, the hungry Troodon didn't care about that and ate all the meat in one breath. What the Troodon didn't expect was that there would be such a pie in the sky tonight. The Troodon shouted, and couldn't wait to lead his companions to the scene where the fragrance came from. Sure enough, there were pieces of fragrant meat placed on the ground, which were within easy reach. However, the Troodontosaurs were still very cautious and did not move forward rashly. Instead, they carefully explored the surrounding environment until they confirmed that there were no other animals nearby. After confirming that there was no danger, the Troodontosaurs were very excited and rushed to grab the food that was given by God. But when several Troodontosaurs just came to a piece of food, they suddenly felt that their feet were empty. They didn't even have time to react, and their small bodies fell into the trap. In an instant, the screams of these Troodontosaurs came from the trap. Under the night, their bodies were directly pierced by the dead branches inserted upside down at the bottom of the pit, and a large amount of blood flowed into the river. At the same time, the Troodontosaurs approaching the other two food were also hit one after another and fell into the traps under their feet. They were instantly pierced by the sharp dead branches, and blood sprayed, and they were in great pain. Only a few Troodontosaurs that were a little slower were lucky enough to survive. They were shocked when they saw this scene, and they surrounded the trap mouth, looking at their companions who were screaming below and were at a loss. No matter how smart they were, they couldn't think of any way to rescue their companions. The Troodontosaurs, struggling in pain, broke off the dead branches under them, but the parts of the dead branches that were inserted into their bodies remained in their bodies, and their violent movements accelerated the loss of blood. Chi. The Troodontosaurs let out sharp howls one after another, and jumped up with all their might, trying to escape the trap, but they couldn't escape. Before long, the Troodontosaurs in the traps had no strength left, no longer struggling or shouting, but collapsed at the bottom of the pit, waiting for death with only their chests still rising and falling slightly. It was late at night, and the few Troodontosaurs lingering at the entrance of the trap had already lost their courage and fled. As for the 7 or 8 Troodontosaurs in the 3 traps, they were completely dead. Chapter 30 The Ancestor of Primates? The Dwarf Tyrannosaurus. Please read on. At the top of the trunk of a tall sycamore tree, a Purgatorius monkey that had just woken up quietly emerged from another hidden tree hole, preparing to go out to look for food. This is the earliest and most primitive lower primate, and it is also the ancestor of all primates in later generations. The Purgatorius monkey is only 15 centimeters long. Although it is a monkey, it does not look like a monkey at all, but more like a squirrel. It has a pointed head, big round eyes, sharp small teeth in its mouth, a furry body, and a bent tail. Its limbs are long and powerful, and its claws are curved so that it can climb trees flexibly. It is a veritable loose mouse. They are typical arboreal mammals that feed on insects and fruits. Squeak, the Purgatorius monkey that had just come out of the hole, saw several Troodon running hurriedly in panic in the night. Troodon is the absolute natural enemy of the Purgatorius monkey. The timid monkey was immediately scared back into the tree hole. After confirming that there was no movement outside, the Purgatorius monkey carefully poked its head out of the tree hole, and found that the Troodontosaurs had disappeared, and finally slowly crawled out. At this time, the Purgatorius monkey smelled a strong smell of blood in the air, and it was very close. It was high above the treetops of the sycamore tree, And with its good night vision, it could clearly see 3 huge pits on the ground where the smell of blood came from. And in the pits, there were Tyrannosaurs lying in miserable death. At this moment, the young mind of the purgatorious monkey was greatly shocked. Chu Xu, who was sleeping at this time, did not know how much impact his unintentional actions had brought to the earliest ancestors of primates in later generations. When he woke up early the next morning, Chu Xu came to check the situation of the trap. As expected, the group of thieves had been caught. It turned out to be a group of Tyrannosaurs. Seeing the Tyrannosaurs that had been dead for a long time in the trap, Chu Xu shook his head and laughed. Unexpectedly, it was the Troodon, the most intelligent dinosaur, that became the first lucky person in history to be trapped and killed. However, the high intelligence of Troodon is limited to the category of dinosaurs as reptiles. Compared with mammals in later generations, there is a big gap, not to mention humans. The only pity is that killing so many Troodon with traps cannot bring Chu Xu any evolution points. It seems that the system determines that only prey killed by oneself will be calculated for evolution points, while prey killed by external factors such as traps will be ignored. However, the bodies of these Troodon cannot be wasted. They can be used to make up for the smoked meat lost in the past 2 days. First, Chu Xu used liquid weapons to wrap part of his body to strengthen his defense and prevent accidental injuries. Then he carefully entered the trap pit and threw the bodies of Troodon one by one high above the ground. After collecting all the Troodon bodies, Chu Xu jumped up with full explosive power and easily jumped out of the 2-meter-deep trap pit. Chu Xu has also proven the effectiveness of the trap through practice. It is a terrifying weapon that is hard to defend against for dinosaurs and other animals in the Cretaceous period. It is simple to make and has remarkable results. And these 3 trap holes can be recycled in the future, ready to trap thieves who want to steal food at any time. After a busy morning, Chu Xu dealt with the corpses of the Troodon and rebuilt the smoked meat grill. The blazing bonfire raised thick black smoke, smoking one piece of fresh raw meat after another. Another week passed, and the smoked meat made of Troodon meat was ready. When Chu Xu brought it back to share with Long Ma, Xianyu and Liu Xing, they all stared with wide eyes and devoured it. I only felt the mellow fragrance. The meat was fat but not greasy, lean but not stiff, and it was endless aftertaste. Its calories are also higher than the original raw meat, and after eating it, it can provide more sufficient energy for its normal metabolism and activities. However, even if Chu Xu worked hard to make so many reserve food, if there is no subsequent prey food to supplement, it will not take long to run out. In the past week, Chu Xu has captured very few prey. The large and medium-sized herbivorous dinosaurs in the territory of Long Ma and even Long Ba have disappeared. The fish in the dry river have also disappeared. Only insects, lizards, and salamanders occasionally emerge to move around. It can be said that all things are withering. Roar. Finally, Long Ma made a major decision. She temporarily gave up the 1/3 acre of land under her feet and followed the migrating herbivorous dinosaurs all the way to the southeast to compete with other carnivorous dinosaurs for new territories until the dry season is over and then return. In the early morning of that day, the glimmer of the rising sun was like a delicate brushstroke, gradually depicting the outline of the earth from the dark painting of the night. While the temperature had not risen yet and there was a breeze blowing, Long Ma woke up early, called 3 little Tyrannosaurus Rex, and took them on the journey of migration. Not only Long Ma, the lord of this territory, but also many carnivorous dinosaurs living in it could not hold back and began to migrate back and forth. There are small but agile hell dogs, Stygian raptor groups that act in groups. There are hell coyotes, Troodon groups that are highly intelligent, have strong senses, and know how to work together and work together. There are also medium-sized Dakota raptor, which combines strength and speed and is known as the hell raptor. In addition, there is an unexpected figure. This is a large Tyrannosaurus with a body length of more than 7 meters. It has the iconic huge and ferocious head of the Tyrannosaurus dinosaurs, a broad and sturdy body, thick hind legs and a heavy tail. However, this is not a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I saw that its forelimbs are particularly slender, and its teeth are short and blade-like, which is quite different from the appearance of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. If Chu Xu were here, he would definitely recognize that this is a dwarf Tyrannosaurus known as the dwarf tyrant. The Tyrannosaurus is a large carnivorous dinosaur of the Tyrannosaurus genus of the Tyrannosaurus family. It also lives in the Hell Creek Formation of North America. When its fossils were first discovered, paleontologists thought it was an immature Tyrannosaurus Rex. But soon paleontologists discovered that there were many differences between the Tyrannosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus Rex, so they separated it as a new species. The name of the Tyrannosaurus means a dwarf version of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Roar. After Chu Xu and his family left, the Tyrannosaurus broke into the core territory of the Dragon Mother in a dignified manner, sniffing the remaining smell here with its swaying nose, and its eyes flashed with fierceness and violence. If nothing unexpected happened, there used to be 3 young Tyrannosaurus Rex living here. If they are allowed to continue to grow, they will inevitably become their competitors in the future and occupy more resource space. Next, it is time to find a good opportunity to eliminate these potential threats. Chapter 31 Ankylosaur, the armored tank, and Decadoraptor, the Hellraptor. Please read on. A week after leaving the territory, Chu Xu and his family traveled along the Missouri River, passed through the vast mountains of the Rocky Mountains, and came to the endless North American prairie. Due to the existence of the Western Inland Passage, there are large floodplains in the North American prairie, and many rivers flow through the land. Sometimes the river floods, thus forming new sedimentary layers. During the rainy season, when there is sufficient water, this place is a paradise for herbivorous dinosaurs, with abundant water and grass and full of vitality. However, with the arrival of the periodic dry season, this place will become a scene of withered grass, withered and yellow, food is scarce, and all things are withered. From ancient times to the present, it is unknown how many creatures have been buried here, and over the years, many fossil bone beds have been formed in later generations. While following the Dragon Mother in the endless barren grassland, Chu Xu checked his own attribute panel. Name, Chu Xu. Age, 10 months. Race, Agumon. Male. Growth stage, juvenile. 4-dimensional attributes: Strength 380, Agility 380, Constitution 400, Spirit 390. Evolution points: 10. Skills: Flame Claws, Flame Fangs, Flash Flame Charge, High Speed Movement, Special Moves, Small Flame. Achievements: Overlord's Talent, Primary. Telepathic Perception, Primary. Fluid Armament, Primary. Next evolutionary form, Tyrannosaurus Rex. During this period of time, Chu Xu's 4-dimensional attributes have also been steadily increasing, and his physique continued to grow rapidly. The length of the head and tail stretched to 3.5 meters, and the head height reached the standard of 1.8 meters for human male gods in his previous life. The weight is close to 1 ton, and the size is comparable to a car. In comparison, Chu Xu is now almost as long as Longma's tail, and his head can reach her thighs. He is no longer the half-grown turkey that was not even as big as Longma's feet when he was just born. And Xianyu and Luxing, who are the same age, have the same physique as Chu Xu, with their body length equal to his tail length and their head height equal to his thigh height. So when Chu Xu's family walked together, from Longma to Chu Xu and then to Xianyu and Luxing, it was like layers of buildings, staggered and full of a special sense of harmony. However, due to the lack of prey and the reduction of evolutionary point sources, Chu Xu's subsequent growth progress had to slow down. Alice, the reserve food has been eaten up. If no new prey is hunted, I can only starve. Chu Xu retracted the attribute panel in front of him, faced the reality again, and could only sigh helplessly. The long-distance migration had already consumed a lot of their physical strength, and they had to look for prey everywhere and find ways to hunt. The difficulty coefficient was extremely high. Fortunately, God is not always so ruthless. At this time, Longma and Chu Xu smelled a strong smell in the air. If nothing unexpected happened, a herd of herbivorous dinosaurs passed by this area not long ago. Longma and Chu Xu's eyes lit up and they quickened their pace to rush in the direction of the smell. After less than half an hour, Chu Xu finally found this herbivorous dinosaur. It was a group of ankylosaurs known as armored tanks. There were as many as 40 or 50 of them in the group, which was quite large. Ankylosaur, whose full name is large-faced ankylosaur, is a medium-sized herbivorous dinosaur of the genus Ankylosaur in the family Ankylosauridae. It has short limbs and a bulky body. It is 6 meters long and weighs up to 4 tons. The iconic feature of ankylosaurs is its armor that is armed to the teeth. The whole set of armor is composed of hundreds of block-shaped bone plates, embedded in the skin, airtight, hard and thick, with extremely high hardness and toughness. The surface of the bone plate is densely covered with spines, and there is a row of dagger-like spines on both sides of the body, and finally a thick hammer-shaped tail, which can be used for both attack and defense. and can be regarded as top-level equipment. These guys are simply walking large durians. Chu Xu couldn't help but complain when he saw this group of ankylosaurs. There are very few ankylosaurs in the Hell Creek Formation in North America, far less than Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, so Chu Xu rarely saw their traces before. However, the small number does not mean that they are easy to bully. With a set of top-level equipment, hunting is very difficult. Small and medium-sized carnivorous dinosaurs will stay away from ankylosaurs and dare not provoke them easily. Adult Tyrannosaurus Rex does have the ability to hunt ankylosaurs, but the gain is not worth the loss. After all, the attribute points of ankylosaurs in the evolution process are all added to the armor defense. Although the weight is not light, the meat rate is pitifully low. Unless you are really hungry, wouldn't it be better to hunt Triceratops and Edmontosaurus with more meat and more numbers? But now there was no time for Long Ma and Chu Xu to be picky. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. They had finally found such a group of ankylosaurs. Even if they were covered with the bones, they would still eat them up. So Chu Xu's family acted quickly, deliberately lowered their bodies, and quietly sneaked towards the group of ankylosaurs. However, just as Chu Xu approached the group of ankylosaurs, his telepathic perception caught a few hungry hunters lying in ambush in another direction. It was a group of Dakitoraptors, and they obviously regarded this group of ankylosaurs as their hunting targets. Dakitoraptor, a medium-sized carnivorous dinosaur of the genus Dakitoraptor of the dromaeosaurid family, was known as the Hell Raptor. Its body size was much larger than that of the Styx raptor, which was also a dromaeosaurid family. It was 5.5 meters long and weighed up to 450 kilograms. Although it is not small in size, Dakitoraptor is an absolute speed hunter. Its body is covered with dense feathers, its slender tibia is much longer than its femur, and it has the second toe claw of the hind limb, which is the iconic feature of dromaeosauridae. This makes it extremely agile and maneuverable, able to run and jump, and its lethality and strength should not be underestimated. It fully combines the speed advantage of small carnivorous dinosaurs with the size advantage of large carnivorous dinosaurs. Moreover, Dakitoraptor also hunts in families. With the cooperation of multiple Dakitoraptors, even large herbivorous dinosaurs may become their meal. Swish! The Dakitoraptor family took the lead in launching an attack. A pair of sub-adult Dakitoraptor brothers acted as the forwards, striding out their long legs, and their short-distance sprint speed could reach more than 60 kilometers per hour. Following closely behind was a pair of adult Dakitoraptor couples, one on the left and one on the right. As the main attacker and the secondary attacker, the sickle-shaped second toe claws on the soles of their hind limbs could be transformed into the sickle of death at any time to harvest lives. When the ankylosaurs discovered the enemy's attack, they also exploded, and the first reaction of each ankylosaur was to run away. Although the ankylosaurs look like they are not easy to mess with, they are actually herbivorous dinosaurs, and they have an instinctive fear of carnivorous dinosaurs as their natural enemies from the depths of their genes. However, the ankylosaurs with short limbs and bulky bodies can't even outrun the Tyrannosaurus Rex, let alone the speed-type Dakitoraptor. The Dakitoraptor brothers, who took the lead, easily caught up with an ankylosaur that fell behind, and stood in front of the ankylosaur to block its escape route. Then, the Dakitoraptor couple approached from the left and right sides of the ankylosaur, opened their fangs and mouths, and bit the ankylosaur's hind thighs respectively. Chapter 32, Your Baba Will Always Be Your Dad. Please read and recommend. Oh no, we've been intercepted by this group of Dakitoraptors. Seeing that the ankylosaurs were already running away in fear, Chu Xu knew that he had to attack. Move at high speed. In an instant, Chu Xu chopped down with one foot, and stepped on the ground several times at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye, leaving a series of deep footprints. Another whoosh sounded. With the help of the reaction force, Chu Xu turned into a flash of lightning and shot out. With his strong dragon body, he tore through the whistling wind and caught up with the fleeing ankylosaurs in just a few seconds. Dragon Mother and Crescent Moon Luxing also hurriedly caught up. At the same time, the Dakitoraptor family had already launched a group attack on the trapped ankylosaurs. While the ankylosaur's attention was attracted by the Dakitoraptor brothers in front, the Dakitoraptor couple went around and bit its hind thighs, tearing off a large piece of bloody flesh from each. The ankylosaurus immediately raised his head and howled in pain, and the thick, long and powerful bone tail club swept out with a fierce swing, smashing hard at the male Dakitoraptor's leg. The ankylosaurus tail club rose at the end of its tail, with a diameter of nearly 40 centimeters and a weight of up to 50 kilograms. In addition, the ossified tendons in its tail are closely connected to the coccyx and pelvis. This makes the Ankylosaurus tail club not only incredibly lethal, but also very flexible in the horizontal direction, which can form a fan that swings left and right, causing heavy damage to the enemy's legs. However, the experienced male Dakitoraptor knew the power of the Ankylosaurus tail club, and when he saw the Ankylosaurus swinging its tail, he retreated nimbly to avoid it. Seizing the opportunity, the female Dakitoraptor on the side kicked up her right hind leg and kicked the Ankylosaurus abdomen, which was one of the few that was not covered with a deck. With a puff, the second toe claw on its sole, which stood up like a switchblade, directly pierced the Ankylosaurus skin and penetrated deeply into the muscle, and blood flowed out instantly. The Ankylosaurus howled heartbreakingly, turned around and swung its powerful tail club again, but was easily avoided by the female Dakitoraptor again. The pair of Dakitoraptor brothers in front did not fall behind, and launched attacks one after another, biting the two forelimbs of the Ankylosaurus respectively. There was no way, after all, most of the Ankylosaurus body was covered with hard bone plates, and the surface of the bone plates was also covered with a thick layer of keratin, and even had sharp thorns. It was difficult for the Dakitoraptor to cause effective damage to it with its teeth and bite force, and it might even be injured in return. Only by attacking its limbs and abdomen without bone plate protection can it work. Originally, the tactics of the Dakitoraptor family were not a quick battle. Facing such a hard bone as the Ankylosaurus, they had to fight a war of attrition. By constantly inflicting wounds on the Ankylosaurus and consuming its physical strength, the Ankylosaurus would naturally become a piece of meat on the chopping board for the dragon to slaughter. But the Ankylosaur did not sit still and wait for death. It knew that it could not escape the encirclement of these Dakitoraptors, so it simply stopped running. It was seen crawling directly on the ground, curling up its limbs under its abdomen like a hedgehog, and the spines on the bone plates on its body surface stood up, emitting a bright cold light. Seeing this scene, the Dakitoraptor family could not help but be dumbfounded. For a moment, they did not know what to do with the Ankylosaur in this state. They used all their strength, or opened their mouths to bite, or waved their claws to tear, or hit and kick, but they could not hurt the Ankylosaur at all. They could only scream in helplessness and rage. On the other side, Chu Xu had caught up with an Ankylosaur that fell behind. A raging fire burned in his bloody mouth, and his fangs were burning with high temperature, and he bit the right leg of the Ankylosaur's hind leg. Flame fangs. The Ankylosaurus howled hysterically. The pain was so excruciating that it fell to the ground and could not stand up for a while. However, the Ankylosaurus moved very quickly. Since it could not escape, it immediately used its best method of shrinking and curled up into a ball. Unfortunately, the opponent this Ankylosaurus encountered was not the Hellraptor Dakitoraptor, but the real dinosaur tyrant Tyrannosaurus Rex. Chu Xu's containment mission was completed. Next, the Ankylosaurus, which was trapped in a jar, could be dealt with by the Dragon Mother. Bang! 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 The Dragon Mother rushed forward with a step-by-step earthquake. With a height of more than 6 meters, the Aeolong looked down at the Ankylosaurus, which was only about 1.5 meters tall. The difference in tonnage between the two sides was a full 4 tons. Facing the huddled Ankylosaur, the Mother of Dragons just pushed hard with her huge head, and the powerful force directly lifted the Ankylosaur from the ground, flipped it 180 degrees with its forelegs facing up, and the white belly without the protection of the bone plate was exposed. It can only be said that this Ankylosaur knows nothing about the power of an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex. You, Tyrannosaurus, will always be your father. Roar. The Mother of Dragons opened her mouth without hesitation and bit the belly of the Ankylosaur. Then she tossed her head and tore it, making the belly of the Ankylosaur bloom, as if a colorful silk shop was opened, and red, yellow, and white were all sprayed out. The Mother of Dragons did not take the trouble to finish off the Ankylosaur, but could not wait to eat it raw, swallowing the freshly baked internal organs in the Ankylosaur's belly, drinking the steaming blood, and eating it so heartily. Chu Xu, Xianyu, and Liuxing also devoured the Ankylosaur meat. Although there was not much meat, the texture was rough and scattered, and the taste was very ordinary. They could not be picky at this moment. The poor Ankylosaur kept making miserable and sad howls. It had a strong vitality and had not died so easily, but now death had become a luxury for it, and it had to suffer while it was alive. It was unknown how long it had passed before the ankylosaur took its last breath in endless pain. The edible parts of its body were almost eaten up by Chu Xu's family. The meat yield was only 10% minus 15%. Even if it originally weighed 4 tons, the meat on its body was only about half a ton. Even the mother of dragons could barely eat enough, not to mention Chu Xu, Xianyu, and Luxing, 3 little Tyrannosaurus Rexes with big appetites. Ling. You participated in hunting an adult ankylosaur, evolution points plus 40. In the end, only the hard-to-chew bones were left piled up on the spot, forming a small bone mountain. After eating the ankylosaur, the mother of dragons seemed to be still unsatisfied. She turned her head and looked at the Daguerreoraptor family, who were still in a stalemate with the ankylosaur not far away. At this time, the Daguerreoraptor family was at their wits' end, and they were furious around the motionless ankylosaur. Even if they were combined, their strength was far less than that of the mother of dragons. It was impossible for them to flip the 4-ton ankylosaur over like she did. But the Daguerreoraptor family was unwilling to give up just like that. After all, they had been hungry for many days. They finally caught a prey and didn't want to let the cooked duck fly away. They didn't believe that the ankylosaur would keep this posture. Roar. But as a deterrent roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex sounded, the Daguerreoraptor family turned their heads and saw 4 big and small Tyrannosaurus Rex approaching with malicious intentions, with hideous faces and bared teeth. Their body language clearly expressed one meaning: robbery. Hand over your prey. Chapter 33 Bullying the Dragon Too Much? Hunger and Coercion. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. Robbery. Chu Xu's family didn't even have enough to eat with just one ankylosaur. Anyway, these thin dragons couldn't do anything with this ankylosaur, so it would be a waste to leave it to them. The Daguerreoraptor family was furious. Although they roared continuously, Chu Xu heard that the sound was trembling with fear. Although the adult Daguerreoraptor was the second largest dromaeosaur in the dromaeosaurid family, second only to the Utahraptor, in front of the adult Tyrannosaurus Rex, it was still just a small kid who was not worth looking at. The comparison was like the difference between a motorcycle and a large truck. Moreover, even Chu Xu's size had surpassed the Daguerreoraptor couple, not to mention the mother of dragons. Roar. The mother of dragons didn't even look at these weak chickens in hell. She roared domineeringly and rushed straight towards them. Seeing the mother of dragons approaching, the Daguerreoraptor family gave in at the speed of light, and turned around and ran away without caring about the food that was about to come to their mouths. Luxing, who was following behind the dragon mother, also roared at the Daguerreoraptor family. After seeing the Daguerreoraptor family running away, he chased after them with a roar, but they ran too fast and Luxing only had a mouthful of dust. Chu Xu was too lazy to chase the Daguerreoraptor family. It was not easy to hunt them. It was better to cooperate with the dragon mother to deal with this ankylosaurus first, and earn another evolution point. Soon, the dragon mother followed the same method and turned the ankylosaurus, who thought he was safe, upside down. It was not until the ankylosaurus opened his eyes in a daze that he realized that the enemies around him had been replaced without knowing when. It was a ferocious Tyrannosaurus Rex. Ankylosaurus, oh my god, I want to go home. Hello. Chu Xu smiled and greeted the confused ankylosaurus, then bit its already injured hind leg and tore off a large piece of flesh again. The mother of dragons even directly gutted the ankylosaur and sent it home to be reborn as soon as possible. Ling. You participated in hunting an adult ankylosaur, evolution points plus 40. Soon, another ankylosaur was buried in the mouths of Chu Xu's family. The internal organs and flesh of the body were swept away by them. They left contentedly until they could not eat any more. After eating 2 full adult ankylosaurs, Chu Xu's family did not need to eat for at least a week. Not long after Chu Xu's family left, the Daguerreoraptor family, which had escaped, came back. They were hungry and wanted to pick up some leftovers to fill their stomachs, but found that there were only 2 piles of bones with only scattered meat scraps on the ground. It was simply too much bullying for dragons. The Daguerreoraptor family was indignant, but they were helpless. They could only pitifully gnaw on the bones on the ground and lick the remaining meat scraps on them with their tongues. Although they could not fill their stomachs, it was still okay to satisfy their cravings. Horizontal ellipsis. There was no wind or rain. The hot and scorching dry season had entered its full swing. Half a month had passed since the last time Chu Xu and his family hunted a group of ankylosaurs. The perceived temperature had reached over 40 degrees Celsius recently. The Missouri River along the way was becoming thinner and dry. The only remaining grasslands on the North American prairie were swept away by the migrating herbivorous dinosaurs. Even for a little water and food, the usually docile herbivorous dinosaurs would fight each other, especially the conflicts between large groups of Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, which were often staged. At dusk, the temperature dropped slightly, and a group of Triceratops finally found a piece of grassland with some greenery left, but more and more herbivorous dinosaurs came after hearing the news, and there were too many monks and too little meat. Moo with a series of horn-like howls, the Triceratops occupied the grassland with its huge size and numbers, and drove out the other small and medium-sized Triceratops, strange dragons, and Stygian dragons. However, soon another group of Edmontosaurs, whose number was no less than that of the Triceratops, appeared. They did not tolerate the Triceratops and had a fierce conflict with them head-on. The Triceratops quickly formed a defensive formation, with horns and blood-soaked neck shields, and howled and stomped their feet in anger. The sky and the ground echoed with their deafening voices. Not to be outdone, the Edmontosaurs rushed into the Triceratops' defensive formation. Their bulging nasal sacs emitted thunderous roars, and they waved their strong and powerful forelimbs and tails, constantly attacking the Triceratops. I, Chu Xu, like to watch women the most. Oh no, prey fighting. When Chu Xu saw from afar that the Triceratops and Edmontosaurus were engaged in a mighty ethnic conflict, he was immediately surprised. The reason is also very simple: when the snipe and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. The more intense the fight between the Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, the more excited the carnivorous dinosaurs as hunters are, and their sharp teeth are salivating, especially when they suffer casualties. It is no different from pie in the sky. In addition to Chu Xu's family, there are many uninvited guests who quietly appear, sitting on the mountain to watch the dragon fight, just waiting for a rare opportunity to pick up leaks. Within the range of Chu Xu's telepathic perception, he found a group of Troodon and the familiar Dakitoraptor. This Dakitoraptor also fully demonstrated a thief in its name, and liked these things that could fish in troubled waters and take advantage of the fire. Bang! At this time, Chu Xu clearly saw an adult Edmontosaurus fall to the ground with a dull loud noise. It turned out that one of its hind legs was stabbed by the huge horn of a Triceratops, and its huge body fell to the ground under the heavy weight. The fallen Edmontosaurus was accidentally trampled by other furious companions, and even its internal organs were ruptured by the heavy pressure, causing severe bleeding in the abdominal cavity. Not long after, it died of excessive blood loss and collapsed in a pool of blood. It was not until they found that one of their companions had died that the Edmontosaurus group fell into panic, turned around and left, and had to look for the next grassland. Not long after, the Triceratops group also ate up all the green plants in this grassland and hurriedly continued to migrate. The opportunity had come. As soon as the Triceratops group left, the carnivorous dinosaurs who had been watching the fire from the other side of the river for a long time began to move. Roar! The dragon mother would not miss such a piece of pie falling from the sky. She took the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex and led the charge. She roared majestically at the Troodon Rex and the Dakitoraptor family that were also approaching. Under normal circumstances, with an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex like the dragon mother, these small and medium-sized carnivorous dinosaurs would not dare to offend her at all, as that would be tantamount to seeking death. But now is different from the past. Like the Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, they have not eaten for a long time. Herbivorous dinosaurs still fight over food, not to mention the ferocious carnivorous dinosaurs. And the dead adult Edmontosaurus is a real meat mountain. Even if they only get a leg, it is enough for them to have a full meal. Under the coercion of hunger, the fear of adult Tyrannosaurus Rex has been thrown out of their minds, replaced by hysterical madness. Chapter 34, Taking Advantage of Others? Chu Xu, I will beat 10 of them. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. The Dakitoraptor family naturally remembered Chu Xu's family. Now they did not flee in panic, but stared at them with a fierce look, especially focusing on the three little Tyrannosaurus behind Long Ma. Following closely behind were a dozen fierce Troodon. Although they were less than half the size of Dakitoraptor, they were very cunning and agile, with sharp teeth and claws, and knew how to fight in a team. They should not be underestimated. This made Long Ma a little cautious. If she was the only one here, there would be no need to be afraid of the siege of these weak chickens. But her second daughter and youngest son still lacked the ability to protect themselves. No matter how brave and powerful she was, it would be difficult for her to protect them under the siege of so many enemies. After comprehensive consideration, Long Ma still felt that the risk was too great. In fact, a few days ago, their family hunted a strange dragon and had a full meal, so they were not too hungry now. Fighting with these guys who had lost their minds for this Edmontosaurus, the lives of her children would also be threatened, which was not worth the loss. So after weighing the pros and cons, Long Ma let out a low roar at the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex, and slowly covered their retreat. In Long Ma's eyes, Chu Xu's safety was more important. If there was no food, they could just go hunting. Seeing Long Ma's retreat, the Dakitaraptor family and the Troodon group became more aggressive, as if they thought Long Ma was easy to control. They pressed forward step by step, staring at the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex behind her. This was a rare opportunity. If they could kill one of the little Tyrannosaurus Rex whose wings were not yet fully grown, they would have one less terrible competitor in the future. They knew how powerful the Tyrannosaurus Rex would be when they grew up, so the young little Tyrannosaurus Rex was the target of all carnivorous dinosaurs. A bunch of chickens and dogs, you really dare to be so arrogant. It's just right, I haven't killed anyone for a long time. Chu Xu also noticed their murderous intentions against him and Crescent Moon Lixing, and he couldn't help but get angry. Since they took the initiative to seek death, he could only accept their evolution points reluctantly. The already sultry air became even more scorching. After the fierce friction between the Triceratops and the Edmontosaurs, the Chu Xu family, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the Troodon and Dakitaraptor groups broke out in an inevitable conflict. The Dakitaraptor family in front took the lead in attacking the Dragon Mother, forcing her to look ahead and not look back. Roar! The Dragon Mother, who was eager to protect her son, was completely enraged by the enemy. She rushed towards the Dakitaraptor family fiercely, wanting to make a quick decision. With the body of the Dakitaraptor, if it was hit by the Dragon Mother's attack, it might lose its life. But this family of Dakitaraptors were not easy to deal with. They were not so arrogant as to confront Dragon Mother head-on. Instead, they took advantage of their speed and agility, constantly dodging, wandering. Whenever Dragon Mother rushed up with a fierce look, they fled in all directions. When she wanted to turn around and come back for help, they approached again. As long as Dragon Mother had no time to take care of the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex behind her, they would be considered successful. Taking this opportunity, the group of Troodon quickly went around and hunted the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex that lacked protection. ZHA. A Troodon that quietly went around Dragon Mother quickly jumped out, aiming directly at the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex including Chu Xu. Chu Xu, who was on high alert, had already noticed the movement of the Troodon, and his eyes were shining with sharp light. Just as the opponent pounced on him, the sharp claws armed with liquid weapons brought after images and sonic booms, and even drove the surrounding airflow to form a vortex, and instantly attacked the Troodon's neck. This scene was like a sharp knife cutting fruit, with a column of blood spurting out like juice. The slender and fragile neck of the Troodon was then split in two by Chu Xu's claws, and the head moved away from the body, turning into a headless corpse falling to the ground. Now Chu Xu's four-dimensional attribute values have exceeded 400, his weight has reached 1 ton, and his explosive power can reach a full 4 tons. After adding skills, his power is even stronger, and his combat power is enough to crush most small and medium-sized dinosaurs. The bloody scene of his companion being easily decapitated and killed instantly greatly shocked the other Troodon, making them dare not act rashly for a while. Boom! From Chu Xu's body, the Troodon group felt a special pressure, and inexplicably felt that their bodies were burdened, their limbs were stiff, and their heads were dizzy. Roar! Passive beating is not Chu Xu's style, and in his eyes, it is not that many enemies surrounded him, but that he alone surrounded many enemies. Chu Xu roared, and the air wave vibrated during the high-speed movement, and the sand and rocks flew. The huge dragon body flashed in front of the group of Troodontosaurus as if it had teleported. In the eyes of the Troodontosaurus closest to him, he saw a bloody mouth that opened and closed to 60 degrees and had a diameter of more than 1 meter, which was constantly expanding. In addition, the rows of sharp banana fangs on the bright red gums were like the axe of a guillotine falling on his head. Crack! With a fierce bite of the upper and lower jaws, Chu Xu bit the narrow head of the Troodontosaurus in one bite. The skull could not bear the weight, and the blood and brain matter exploded directly in his mouth, and the fishy smell rushed straight into his nose from his mouth. Chu Xu did not feel nauseous or uncomfortable because of this, but his blood boiled all over his body, and he felt very happy. Then, Chu Xu turned around again, and the dragon tail behind him, which was as hard and thick as a steel whip, swept out. The dragon swings its tail. Bang! Another troodon nearby was hit by Chu Xu's dragon tail, and it flew backwards more than 10 meters before landing again, paralyzed on one side of its body, unable to get up. Roar! After killing 3 troodon in a row, Chu Xu was still not satisfied. His eyes were red, his blood was dilated, and he roared at the remaining troodon that seemed to be frozen. An extremely domineering and sharp aura of a king spread from his blood-soaked dragon body and climbed to the peak. Come again. I want to beat 10 of them. Behind Chu Xu, Xianyu and Liuxing were shocked and excited to see the big brother who could stand alone against 10,000 men. Those enemies who were ferocious and terrifying in their eyes were like paper in front of the big brother and could not withstand a single blow. It was really amazing. Zha. Zha. The remaining troodon retreated in fear and shrank back. They never expected that such a half-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex could be so fierce and terrifying, and killed 3 of their companions like cutting melons and vegetables. Zha. Just as the troodon group retreated, the leader of the troodon in the back stood up and let out a hoarse roar, as if giving orders. To be the leader of the troodon group, it may not be the strongest among them, but it must be the smartest among them. The troodon leader has seen how powerful Chu Xu is, but the other 2 little Tyrannosaurus Rex are different. They are much smaller than them. Pick the weak ones and strangle the 2 little Tyrannosaurus Rex first. The troodon that received the order quickly changed their targets, trying to bypass Chu Xu and rush towards Xianyu and Liuxing. Looking for death? Who? The next second, accompanied by a whistling sound, what greeted these smart troodon was a blazing flame, which instantly illuminated their terrified faces red. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Deadly Fire. Flash Charge. Please read and recommend. Fire. The Troodontosaurs were no strangers to flames. Fires often occurred in the forests and grasslands of the late Cretaceous. Especially in the dry season with high temperature and lack of water, shrubs, grass and other plants can easily catch fire due to dryness, thus causing large-scale fires. Fire is a nightmare for any animal. The innate fear of blazing flames has been passed down from ancestors to the present day, and Troodontosaurs are no exception. But no matter how smart these Troodontosaurs are, they can't figure out why a Tyrannosaurus Rex would spit out flames. The blazing flames spewing from Chu Xu's mouth exploded in a large area the moment they touched a Troodontosaur, setting its feathers on fire. Zha. The Troodontosaur, which was wrapped in flames, screamed shrilly and ran away in panic. But the faster it ran, the more the wind blew in its face, and the more the flames on its body burned more vigorously. It accidentally injured friendly forces and set the feathers of another Troodontosaur next to it on fire. So the second Troodontosaurus ran away again, causing a domino effect, and the fire spread to other companions. This scene frightened the other Troodontosaurus. Not to mention saving their companions, they ran away in a hurry. Even the leader of the Troodontosaurus didn't care about his subordinates. He turned around and ran away as if he had seen a ghost. Want to run? Chu Xu ignored the other Troodontosaurus that were fleeing in all directions. His cold vertical pupils locked onto the leader of the Troodontosaurus. His entire dragon body directly launched and reached a maximum speed of over 200 km per hour in an instant. Zha. The leader of the Troodontosaurus turned his head and suddenly saw Chu Xu, who was originally 100 meters away from him, was already close at hand. It was so scared that its soul left its body. What was even more terrifying was that Chu Xu's whole body was actually ignited with raging flames, turning into a huge fireball that flew at high speed and slammed into the body of the leader of the Troodontosaurus. Flash flame charge. Bang! The huge fireball that Chu Xu transformed into, containing full destructive power, smashed down on the body of the Troodon leader, leaving a shocking charred pit on the ground. As for the Troodon leader who was hit, he was completely turned into a bloody and charred corpse. Not only were his feathers and skin burnt black and carbonized by the flames, but his bones were also crushed by the impact force, and he was deader than dead. What a powerful force. This was the first time Chu Xu used this move, which was the most powerful of all the skills he had mastered. However, although the power of the flash flame charge was strong, Chu Xu himself would also suffer certain counter-effect damage. It was okay to use it occasionally, but if it was used many times in a short period of time, it would hurt the enemy 1,000 times and hurt himself 800 times. After jumping out of the deep pit, Chu Xu's expanded perception could no longer see a single living Troodon. Including the leader of the Troodon, there were 7 Troodon bodies that fell, either killed violently by him or burned alive by the flames. The few Troodon that escaped by chance had already run as far as they could. Ling. You hunted a Troodon, evolution points plus 25, Ling. You hunted a Troodon, evolution points plus 25. 7 Troodon were killed, bringing a total of 175 evolution points to Chu Xu, which was the biggest harvest in the past few months of the dry season. However, the battle was not over yet. Chu Xu turned back without hesitation and went to support Long Ma. Although Long Ma was restrained by the Dakitaraptor family and could not spare her hands, she was always paying attention to the battle between her eldest son and the Troodon group in the back. What surprised her was that her eldest son was so powerful that he defeated the group of Troodontosaurs by himself and protected his sister and brother. When the Dakitaraptor family saw this scene, their hair stood on end in horror. What kind of monster is that half-grown Tyrannosaurus? Not only is his fighting power off the charts, but he can also spit fire from his mouth. So many Troodontosaurs were no match for him, and they didn't hurt him at all, and most of them were killed. Roar. Without any worries, the dragon mother roared, and took advantage of the Dakitaraptor family's distraction to charge forward. Hearing the thunderous roar, the Dakitaraptor family woke up from their dreams and hurriedly tried to dodge, but it was too late. Crack! The closest female Dakitaraptor was bitten on the neck by the angry dragon mother. The sudden bite force crushed its cervical vertebrae like a rotten wood, and the head was separated from the head and neck with a shake of its head. It was a one-shot kill without any suspense. Seeing the female Dakitaraptor die so tragically, the remaining 3 Dakitaraptors no longer had the courage to continue to face the dragon mother, and turned around and fled. Leave one more life? At this time, a figure with even faster speed flashed by. It was Chu Xu who came to help. Huh? The target was locked on the male Dakitaraptor that was left behind. Chu Xu opened his mouth wide again and spewed out a ball of hot flames from the depths of his throat. To deal with enemies covered with feathers like Troodon and Dakitaraptor, using fire attacks is the most appropriate. Ouch! The male Dakitaraptor was still in shock over the death of his wife, and suddenly felt a heat wave rolling behind him, and even the air crackled like fried beans. Turning his head, the male Dakitaraptor was even more frightened, and saw a ball of red flames roaring towards him, and there was no way to avoid it. Boom! The flames accurately hit the broom-like tail of the male Dakitaraptor. After a second of silence, a large-scale explosion occurred, which quickly spread from its tail to its entire body. Ouch! The male Dakitaraptor ran wildly in pain, and rolled on the ground repeatedly, but he could not extinguish the blazing flames on his body. The feathers shrank and curled due to the heat, a large amount of blood and body fluids leaked out of the body's surface, and the skin and flesh were charred. In less than a minute, the male Dakitaraptor was burned to death by the flames. The huge charred corpse had its limbs bent and its body shortened, maintaining a classic fist-fighting posture. Ling. You hunted a Dakitaraptor, evolution points plus 50. The battle was finally over. An adult couple from the Dakitaraptor family died at the hands of Long Ma and Chu Xu respectively. Only the sub-adult Dakitaraptor brothers escaped by chance. The ground was in a mess, with scattered feathers, spilled blood, and corpses lying across the ground. All silently expressed what kind of fierce life and death duel had just taken place. This was also the biggest crisis that Chu Xu's family had faced in such a long time. Fortunately, they were all safe and sound. Chapter 36, Half the Sunset, The Pursuit of the Tyrannosaurus Couple. Please read and recommend. Long Ma panted and slowly walked to the side of the 3 little Tyrannosaurus Rex. With every step, blood could be seen flowing from the wounds on her back. These wounds were also left by the Dakitaraptor family. Like the Stygian raptor, they are best at attacking by pouncing. The attack of the larger and more powerful Dakitaraptor should not be underestimated. It can cause fatal injuries to large prey such as Triceratops and Edmontosaurus. Although she was injured, Longma didn't care. She paid more attention to her children and asked about their situation with concern. After all, Xianyu and Liuxing were still young, less than 1 year old. They were really frightened by the many ferocious enemies and kept curling up and trembling. Longma felt that they were still afraid, so she lowered her huge head and rubbed the heads of Xianyu and Liuxing with the tip of her nose. Under the gentle comfort of the Dragon Mother, the bodies of the Crescent Moon and Liuxing gradually stopped trembling, and their attention was quickly attracted by the food on the ground, and they roared excitedly. The exhausted Dragon Mother also came to the body of the Edmontosaurus that served as the fuse, crouched down, and buried her head in the food. At this time, the Dragon Mother saw that her eldest son did not go to eat, but came behind her and licked the wound on her back with his tongue. Chu Xu used his saliva to help the Dragon Mother treat the wound. The saliva contains special lysozyme and nerve growth factor, which has the effect of sterilization and promoting healing. When wild animals are injured, they often lick their wounds with their tongues, and Tyrannosaurus Rex is no exception. However, due to the limitation of the body structure, the Dragon Mother's tongue could not lick the wound on her back, so Chu Xu helped the Dragon Mother lick the wound. Seeing their elder brother's actions, Xianyu and Liuxing did not rush to eat. They came up and licked the Dragon Mother's wounds with their tongues, smacking the blood in their mouths. These two fools. Chu Xu couldn't help laughing when he saw this, but it was this simple and warm family scene that made him feel particularly precious. In the desolate and lonely wilderness with withered vegetation, flocks of winged birds flew in the sky and dinosaurs ran on the ground. The dusk had fallen, and the mist like light smoke woven into the mountains and forests at the end of the horizon. Half of the sunset was like a cavity of red blood dotted on the western sky, gradually disappearing. After resting here for a night, the Chu Xu family continued on their way the next morning after having eaten and drunk enough. The body of the Edmontosaurus had been eaten by them, and Chu Xu adhered to the good habit of packing up and taking away what he couldn't finish, so he specially took out the huge stomach of the Edmontosaurus. Chu Xu, who studied paleontology in his previous life, also had a good understanding of ancient humans. He knew that in primitive society, people would use the stomachs of animals as natural containers to store food and water. The materials were easy to obtain, and the stomach walls were tough and strong, and the insulation effect was also good. So Chu Xu used the stomach of the Edmontosaurus to take pieces of torn meat, including the meat of Dakitaraptor and Troodon, and stuffed as much as he could into it until it could not fit. Finally, Chu Xu carried the entire full stomach on his back. Although the weight was not light, it was nothing to him. Longma and Xianyu Liuxing were no longer surprised to see Chu Xu's series of operations. Their eldest son eldest brother always liked to do such strange things. Everything was ready, and Chu Xu's family began to hurry. So far, they have migrated for more than 20 days and walked nearly 1,000 kilometers. They are getting closer and closer to the final destination. The dawn of hope is not far away. Half a day after Chu Xu's family left, the Dakitaraptor brothers sneaked back to the scene. Almost all the bodies exposed in the wilderness were looted by Chu Xu's family, leaving only a few charred bodies intact. However, under the scorching sun, the meat soon showed signs of decay, and the pungent odor could be smelled from afar. Even if it was rotten meat, the Dakitaraptor brothers, who had been hungry for many days, would not refuse it, as long as they could fill their stomachs. Soon, they found the charred body of the male Dakitaraptor, which was covered with dense, thumb-thick unicorn flies. Thanks to the higher oxygen content in the Cretaceous atmosphere, this unicorn fly was much larger than the flies of later generations, with a protruding segmented antenna on its head, which could suck nectar and swallow blood and rotten meat. Ah! The Dakitaraptor brothers roared, startling a large number of unicorn flies, and then they took their place and began to eat in a loud and unrestrained manner. Roar! Suddenly, a roar that pierced through the clouds and cracked the rocks came from not far away, exploding in the ears of the Dakitaraptor brothers. Hearing this sound that was highly similar to the roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Dakitaraptor brothers trembled like frightened birds, thinking that the terrible Tyrannosaurus Rex had returned again, and they turned around and ran away without caring about the food in their mouths. Roar! But before the Dakitaraptor brothers could run a few steps, they heard another thunderous roar from the front, blocking their escape route. The Dakitaraptor brothers were stunned in place, trembling with fear. What came into view was not the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but to adult dwarf Tyrannosaurus Rex in front and behind. What bad luck! This was a couple of dwarf Tyrannosaurus Rex. Compared to the solitary Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Tyrannosaurus Rex often hunts as a couple. After they have a family, they will hunt as a family unit. In this way, they are not without the ability to fight even when facing an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex. In many cases, the Tyrannosaurus couple is a more terrifying hunter than a single Tyrannosaurus Rex, because they not only have the body structure of the Tyrannosaurus Rex that has evolved specifically for attacking and killing, but also have deadly weapons all over their bodies. Moreover, their body proportions are more symmetrical, with more developed forelimbs and a lighter body, giving them stronger explosive power and agility. Roar! Roar! The Tyrannosaurus couple roared in unison, one in front and one behind to sandwich the Dakitaraptor brothers. The Dakitaraptor brothers had to confront the Tyrannosaurus couple head-on, but the size difference between them was more than 4 times. The former weighed less than half a ton, while the latter weighed 2 tons. The result of the battle was self-evident. The speed and agility of the Dakitaraptor brothers pale in comparison to the Tyrannosaurus couple when facing the Dragon Mother. After just a few rounds, they were bitten on the neck by the Tyrannosaurus couple, and their cervical vertebrae were shattered. They lay together with the bodies of their parents. The Tyrannosaurus couple casually ate the internal organs of the Dakitaraptor brothers and discarded their bodies. They seemed to have no interest in fresh meat. Instead, they raised their heads, twitched their nostrils in the air, and sniffed the remaining smell. Found it. After the discovery, the Tyrannosaurus couple looked at each other and rushed straight to the direction where Chu Xu's family left half a day ago. Chapter 37, The Migration of Dinosaurs. Undercurrent surge. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. The sun was blazing, and the air was almost still, sticky and thick, without a trace of wind. Chu Xu only felt that the ground was as if it had been roasted, with wisps of white smoke visible to the naked eye, and it was very hot when he stepped on it. Such high temperatures are extremely fatal to dinosaurs that do not have a perfect body temperature regulation function, especially large dinosaurs. The larger the body size, the smaller the ratio of its surface area to volume, and the slower the heat dissipation. Once the body temperature is too high, it is easy to cause heat stroke and coma. Especially for organs like the brain that consume a lot of energy, if there is too much temperature in the head that cannot be dissipated, high temperature may cause protein deterioration or degradation, directly burn the brain, and in severe cases, lead to death. In order to prevent overheating, various large dinosaurs have their own special abilities in the long evolution process. For example, when the body temperature of Triceratops rises, the neck shields densely covered with the blood vessels will be congested with a lot of blood, helping to dissipate the heat generated in the body, thereby lowering the body temperature. Large theropod dinosaurs such as Tyrannosaurus Rex have a special air sinus structure behind their nostrils, which also has abundant blood vessels. Whenever the Tyrannosaurus Rex opens its mouth, the air sinus acts like a bellows to circulate air, allowing the rich blood network flowing through it to cool down. So Chu Xu and his family kept opening their mouths and panting as they walked. Even so, it was a bit tormenting. They felt dry mouth and exhaustion before they walked far. Food is a problem, but water is an even bigger problem. Chu Xu sighed. After experiencing the horror of the dry season, he missed the beauty of the rainy season. There was food and water. The rivers along the way had dried up. Fortunately, Chu Xu could still use his telepathic perception to find underground water sources. He only needed to dig a well at a higher underground water level, and cold and clear water would naturally gush out. But in the past few days, Chu Xu couldn't even find a few underground water sources. Even if he dug out a well, there was only a pitiful amount of water, which was squeezed dry by Chu Xu's family in an instant. Boom boom boom. As he walked, Chu Xu suddenly heard a loud sound that shook the earth from a distance. When he stood on a high place and looked far away, he could see millions of dinosaurs gathered into a mighty steel torrent, rushing towards the direction where Chu Xu's family was. Triceratops, Torosaurus, Edmontosaurus, Strange Dragon, Ankylosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, Stygian Dragon, Styx, Strangosaurus, Leptoceratops. All kinds of dinosaurs of different sizes were mixed together. The team was so long that you couldn't see the end at a glance. As they marched, they raised large pieces of smoke and dust, which hit the heart of the earth like a drum, magnificent and majestic. That was the migrating group of herbivorous dinosaurs from northern North America. It was so spectacular. Chu Xu's expression was shocked. This was not only a top-notch visual feast, but also a hymn to the tenacious nature of life. Survival is the eternal theme of animal migration. In the famous East African animal migration in later generations, only 30% of the animals were able to complete the long journey and return to the starting point safely. During the migration, many lives passed away, and more new lives were born. Everything is a microcosm of life and death in nature. For any creature, the journey of life is the same. Birth, growth, maturity, reproduction, raising young, aging, death. The world is so big, and everything is flourishing, but this is the fate that all creatures cannot change. But this is not a cycle of reincarnation. The birth, aging, illness and death of the previous generation are exchanged for the rebirth and continuation of the next generation. This is the greatest glory of life. Roar seeing the large group of herbivorous dinosaurs migrating, Longmar roared at the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex in a low voice, and her voice was also full of excitement. The appearance of the large group of herbivorous dinosaurs migrating means that the migration route they chose is correct. Moreover, so many herbivorous dinosaurs gathered together, which was like a mobile granary for them, and their food supply was inexhaustible. Coincidentally with the dragon mother, there were also groups of carnivorous dinosaurs that followed the large group as the tail. Soon, after the large group of herbivorous dinosaurs passed by, Chu Xu's family also followed from a distance, waiting for the end of this dry season migration. A few days later, after more than a month of long journey, the large group of herbivorous dinosaurs crossed half of the North American prairie and was not far from their destination. The sun was high, the gold was scorching, and the stones were shining. Looking down from the sky, countless small black dots were dotted on the barren wilderness, shaking and bumping in the scorching drought heat wave. Bang! Suddenly, a dull sound came from the large group. It was a triceratops that was almost starving to the point of being skin and bones. It had tried to get up again several times, but it was powerless. The other triceratops that passed by turned a blind eye to this and continued to move forward. They were all struggling to save themselves, so how could they have the energy to care about other companions? After a while, the triceratops that fell to the ground stopped moving, closed its eyes and waited for the arrival of the god of death. After a long time, when the triceratops had become a corpse, the carnivorous dinosaurs behind the large group rushed forward to share it. The suffering of these herbivorous dinosaurs was a free meal for the carnivorous dinosaurs. Chu Xu's family was no exception. They had been following the large group for the past few days, and they didn't have to worry about food at all. They didn't even need to actively hunt. Similar food would be delivered to their doorsteps almost every day, enough for them to eat their fill. Suddenly, the herbivorous dinosaurs at the front of the large group became agitated and sped up in a certain direction. Their keen sense of smell had already detected the location of food and water sources. Soon, the herbivorous dinosaurs, who could not wait to run, found a large oasis in front of them. It was dotted with swamps, with a thin layer of water on the surface soil, and dense mosses and short shrubs growing. Oasis. When Chu Xu discovered this paradise-like place through telepathy, he was also refreshed. The appearance of a large oasis in front of them was undoubtedly a miracle of rain after a long drought for these herbivorous dinosaurs who migrated all the way and were thirsty. Rumble a stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and all the herbivorous dinosaurs in the large army became excited and swarmed towards the swamp. The scene was like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds. With their number and scale, I am afraid that this rare oasis will not be able to withstand it and will disappear soon. However, the herbivorous dinosaurs did not notice that the owners of the swamps had been awakened by the huge movement outside. Their cold vertical pupils suddenly opened and stared at these uninvited guests who broke into their territory. Under the seemingly calm water, undercurrents surged. Thank you for your support, and continue to ask for follow-up reading and recommendation votes. Chapter 38 Crocodiles from the Styx in Hell. Large Dinosaur Stampede. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. Soon, groups of herbivorous dinosaurs broke into the oasis, greedily enjoying the plants and water sources on the ground. If you look down from a high altitude, you can see that they are like locusts passing through, sweeping across a large area of the oasis, devouring the greenery on it at a speed visible to the naked eye. A group of strange dragons seized a swamp area, and hunger drove them to enter without thinking, grabbing the food in this area as soon as possible. But before they took a few steps, the strange dragons felt that they could not walk anymore. Looking down, They saw that their feet were already deeply stuck in the swamp mud and they could not get out at all. Meow. Meow. The strange dragons immediately made panicked cries and struggled violently in the swamp mud. The more they struggled, the deeper they sank. Their bodies sank into it little by little. Soon, their entire hind legs were submerged, and their physical strength was almost exhausted. They could only keep making hissing and wailing. The wailing of the strange dragons did not bring rescue, but attracted the owner of this swamp. It was a group of ferocious and terrifying crocodiles. Like dinosaurs, crocodiles are reptiles with a very long history. They first appeared at the end of the Triassic period, just slightly later than the earliest dinosaurs. However, crocodiles successfully passed the heyday and extinction period of dinosaurs and lived to the later generations, becoming one of the survivors among ancient reptiles. Several Montana alligators swam quickly. This is an ancient alligator with a round and wide snout. The body is about 3 meters long, weighs 300 to 400 kilograms, and has a very ferocious temperament. The strange dragons trapped in the swamp mud are like fish on the chopping board for them. The seemingly bulky bodies of the Montana alligators suddenly burst out with amazing speed, and the fangs and big mouth spit into its flesh like lightning, launching the crocodile's specialty, death roll. Tear. As the swamp water surface churned, a large amount of blood floated up. The strange dragons bitten by the Montana alligators felt that one of their legs was torn off with flesh and bones, bringing great pain to their hearts. The Montana alligators were not in a hurry to kill these strange dragons, but kept biting them. Every bite would tear off a large piece of flesh and blood, exposing the jagged bones and internal organs of the strange dragons, and tortured them to death bit by bit. The blood dyed the swamp red, and the scene was shocking. The same scene also happened in other swamps. The surface of these swamps was a thin layer of water, but the bottom was sticky sediment mud. It was okay for small dinosaurs with light bodies, but once medium and large herbivorous dinosaurs such as Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, and strange dragons mistakenly entered them, their heavy weight would immediately make their feet sink into the mud and they could not get out. The more they struggled, the deeper they sank. It was completely a hellish river of the underworld that ate dragons but did not spit out bones. The crocodiles that emerged from the swamp mud looked more like soul-collecting messengers from the sticks of hell, with green faces, fangs, and ferocious faces. In addition to the Montana Brachiosaurus, there are also small and medium-sized crocodiles such as the Nosaurus and the Siberian crocodile, ranging in length from 2 meters to 4 meters. They cooperated with each other to attack the herbivorous dinosaurs that were trapped in the mud and unable to move, launching a rare feast. There are so many crocodiles here. When Chu Xu's family followed the migrating group into the oasis, what came into view was a scene of a large number of crocodiles attacking herbivorous dinosaurs. As the king of freshwater, the crocodiles fully utilized their home advantage, leaving the dinosaurs, as the overlords of the land, almost powerless to fight back, and could only flee in panic and chaos. Moo. Hoo. Above the oasis, the herbivorous dinosaurs howled one after another, and panic spread rapidly like a plague. Dinosaurs of all sizes were running back in fear, pushing and shoving each other, and it was a complete mess. Some dinosaurs stumbled and fell to the ground, and were immediately crushed by countless big feet of other dinosaurs. Although the cluster can give these timid herbivorous dinosaurs a sense of security, once disturbed and frightened, they will become a force more terrifying than the enemy. Not good. Seeing that the situation was completely out of control, Chu Xu's face changed. Things happened too suddenly, and Chu Xu didn't have time to react. He suddenly found that his family was also involved in the chaotic dinosaur tide. There were oncoming and rampaging herbivorous dinosaurs all around, and they had completely lost their minds. A group of Stygian raptors had not yet realized the seriousness of the situation and tried to fish in troubled waters in the chaos. As a result, several Triceratops rushed over and directly crushed several Stygian raptors into meat patties. The rest of the Stygian raptors were furious and wanted to escape, but they found that they were small in size and formed a wall of flesh of herbivorous dinosaurs running in all directions. Countless hooves kicked and the flying dust blocked their vision. There was no place to survive. Roar. It was the first time that the mother of dragons faced such a situation. She hurriedly used her huge body to cover the 3 little Tyrannosaurus Rex. However, one after another panicked herbivorous dinosaurs continued to rush towards them. Even if they found the mother of dragons in front of them, they had no time to slow down and crashed into them due to inertia. Bang! A Struthiomimus running wildly could not control the brakes and directly hit the thigh of the mother of dragons. As a result, he was knocked to the ground due to the huge impact force, and then was stepped on by his companions behind him who also had no time to brake, causing a series of accidents. Roar. At this time, Chu Xu beside him yelled at Long Ma, asking her to quickly take Xianyu and Liuxing and turn around and leave. In his previous life, he had also experienced many crowded crowds. In such a situation, one must not panic or go against the current. One must walk in the direction of the crowd, otherwise it is easy to be pushed down by the oncoming crowd. That's why Chu Xu asked Long Ma and the others to turn around and evacuate in the direction of the surge of these herbivorous dinosaurs. Continuing to go against the current is definitely a dead end. If those large herbivorous dinosaurs collide with them, even Long Ma can't resist them. Long Ma listened to Chu Xu's words, opened her mouth wide, put the small Xianyu and Liuxing into her mouth, and then turned around to evacuate. Chu Xu followed closely behind, always alert to any unusual movements around. Fortunately, Chu Xu and his family quickly escaped from the chaotic tide of dinosaurs, and watched with lingering fear the scenes of tragedy that continued to unfold. It was unknown how long it had passed before the noise finally died down. There were many dinosaur corpses lying on the ground, at least 40 or 50. Some were trampled to death, almost crushed into a pool of bloody meat. Some were still breathing, but the broken bones had already pierced into important organs in the body, and the blood was gushing out uncontrollably. It was estimated that they would not live long. The surviving herbivorous dinosaurs calmed down again and gathered into a large migration group again, deliberately bypassing this death zone where countless bones were buried. In fact, there were only a handful of dinosaurs that actually fell into the swamp mud and were bitten to death by crocodiles. The vast majority of the dead and injured dinosaurs were severely injured or even killed in the vicious cycle of trampling. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 39, How dare you show off your skills in front of an expert? The way to survive. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. The migration of herbivorous dinosaurs has already started, but Chu Xu's family did not follow them this time, but stayed to clean up the mess. It was a waste to leave so many dead and injured dinosaurs here. No matter what, they had to have a good meal before continuing on their way. The other carnivorous dinosaurs had the same idea. After the riots ended, they re-entered this dead zone with corpses everywhere and greedily enjoyed the free food. History is always surprisingly similar. Not long ago, herbivorous dinosaurs robbed food here, and now it is the turn of carnivorous dinosaurs to rob food here. There are countless fights between them. Chu Xu's family has Long Ma sitting in, which is enough to deter other villains. So they quickly occupied the body of an adult Triceratops, and while they were busy eating, they did not forget to be alert to other carnivorous dinosaurs around. Roar. Chu Xu also specifically reminded Long Ma and Crescent Moon Liuxing that they must not get close to the nearby swamp. Crescent Moon Liuxing was fine, but with Long Ma's weight, she would be doomed if she fell into it, and Chu Xu had no way to rescue her. At this time, within Chu Xu's telepathic perception range, a series of slight strange noises came from a nearby swamp. Several Montana crocodiles quietly emerged from the water, secretly spying on Chu Xu's family who were feasting. What do these guys want to do? Chu Xu continued to eat without making a sound. Crocodiles have always had a strange way of thinking. In later generations, they even dared to attack rhinos, elephants and other land heavyweights. If it were in the Cretaceous period, they would probably close their eyes and dare to bite even large dinosaurs. As for what happened afterwards, it was all up to fate. Splash! Splash! With a violent explosion on the water surface, a Montana crocodile jumped out of the swamp first, using its amazing explosive power to swing its limbs and crawl quickly, and opened its mouth to bite the body of the Triceratops. The rest of the Montana crocodiles followed suit, feeling like they were eating a free meal without being invited. Roar! Snatching food from the mouth of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, it must be said that these crocodiles are really bold and reckless. Could it be that they still think that they have the huge body of their ancestor, the Tyrannosaurus, and dare to challenge the Tyrannosaurus Rex? What's more, they left their home ground and came to the land to snatch food from the Tyrannosaurus Rex. They really don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. In the eyes of the Dragon Mother, these Montana crocodiles, which are only about 3 meters long and not even as high as her calves, are no different from a group of ants. How dare they show off their skills in front of an expert? Bang! The angry Dragon Mother took a step forward, and as soon as she approached the Montana crocodile that took the lead in snatching food, she trampled down with a thunderous big foot, stepping on its head violently. With a sturdy body of dragon mother, the skull of the Montana crocodile could not bear the weight at all. It was crushed alive by a kick, and instantly ended up with a mess of blood and brains on the ground, like a pile of mud stuck on the ground. Seeing this, the other Montana crocodiles realized that they had kicked the steel plate, and hurriedly let go of the food in their mouths, and stretched out their short legs to turn around and escape back to the swamp. Shoo! Suddenly, a sound of breaking wind was heard, and it was Chu Xu who rushed out like a hungry tiger. In a few breaths, he had already approached the side of the Montana crocodile. With Chu Xu's current size, he naturally couldn't do it like Dragon Mother did, but he also had his own way of hunting. With liquid weapons and blazing fire attached to his teeth at the same time, Chu Xu bit the back of the Montana crocodile's neck accurately, and the dragon body weighing 1 ton also suppressed it. The back of the neck of the crocodile is its weak spot. It can not only avoid the bloody mouth of the crocodile in front, but also lock its trachea, making it unable to breathe. Hiss! Hiss! The Montana crocodile, caught off guard, howled in pain, and its thick short legs and tail struggled frantically. But how could it escape from Chu Xu's palm? The thick scales covering the back of the neck were easily pierced, and the high temperature of the attached flame further burned the muscles, so that the teeth could deeply embed into the trachea of the Montana crocodile, and the throat was sealed with one sword. Hiss! In just a few seconds, the Montana crocodile, which was still full of energy just now, died. Plop! Plop! The rest of the Montana crocodiles fled back to the swamp in panic, and Chu Xu naturally would not chase them anymore. In the water, his strongest fire ability could not be used freely, and his movements would be restricted. It was not so easy to deal with the crocodile as the king of freshwater. Ling. You hunted a Montana crocodile, evolution points plus 30. 30 evolution points, not bad. It's a pity that Tyrannosaurus has become extinct in this era. There is no sense of achievement in bullying these small and medium-sized crocodiles. Chu Xu thought to himself. Speaking of prehistoric crocodiles, the most famous are Sarcosuchus, Tyrannosaurus and Purus crocodiles, all of which are much larger than the largest saltwater crocodile in later generations. Sarcosuchus lived in Africa in the early Cretaceous and could reach a length of 11 meters. However, Sarcosuchus belonged to the family of Megalosuchus and had a relatively slender snout, which meant that their main food was still fish and turtles, and they were not a big threat to large dinosaurs. Tyrannosaurus lived in North America in the late Cretaceous and could reach a length of 10 meters. It belonged to the superfamily of alligators and fed on fish, turtles and small and medium-sized dinosaurs. Even large dinosaurs could become their prey. Tyrannosaurus lived very close to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but there was still a gap of millions of years, and it had become extinct before the Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared. Living in the same era, the close relatives of Tyrannosaurus Rex, Albertosaurus and Apalachianosaurus, which are also Tyrannosaurus, are not as big as Tyrannosaurus Rex, and Tyrannosaurus is also a certain threat to them. As for the Lasparus crocodile, which lived in South America in the late Miocene, that is another story. However, Chu Xu also knows that although the existing crocodiles are much smaller than their ancestors, they are more adapted to the living environment of the late Cretaceous, so they were able to survive the dinosaur extinction and continue to survive tenaciously in the doomsday environment where everything is dying. According to Cope's law, as time goes by, the size of animals generally shows a trend of increasing. Large herbivorous animals can resist the hunting of carnivorous animals, and large carnivorous animals can also hunt large prey, which is beneficial to their own survival. But success and failure are also due to Ziohe. The larger the size of the animal, the lower its ability to resist changes in the natural environment will be in the end, and it will inevitably go extinct. Dinosaurs are the most intuitive example. Therefore, biological evolution is not the bigger the better, and being able to adapt to survival is the most important. A new day, please read on and give me recommendations. Chapter 40 Delta Plains, Hell's Aquarium. Second round of recommendation, please read and recommend. After eating and drinking, Chu Xu followed the method of packing food before, using the stomach of the Triceratops to carry the uneaten meat. Even the crocodile meat of the Montana alligator was not left out. In his previous life, he had tasted crocodile meat. It was low in fat, cholesterol, and high in protein. It had both the deliciousness of aquatic animals and the wild fragrance of terrestrial animals. It was also said that it contained highly effective antibodies and hemoglobin with a unique structure, which could improve one's immunity and blood oxygen uptake capacity, and was beneficial to health. Continuing on the road, Chu Xu and his family followed the footprints left by the migrating herbivorous dinosaurs, and they did not have to worry about going in the wrong direction. A week later, Chu Xu saw many Stygian geese flying across the sky, which also migrated from the north. Stygian geese, nicknamed hell ducks, have appearance characteristics that combine the appearance of flamingos and ducks. They belong to the family Anseridae, and their survival period spanned from the late Cretaceous to the Miocene. They are one of the few prehistoric birds that escaped the mass extinction of dinosaurs. These Styx geese also have the habit of migrating with the seasons. They live by the water and rest by the water. Seeing them means that the destination is close at hand. Finally, at dusk that day, a vast and boundless river appeared in front of Chu Xu's family. Along the coast was a delta plain formed by fertile alluvial soil, stretching vastly under the blue sky, blue for thousands of miles. This river is the main channel of the Missouri River, flowing eastward from the New Rocky Mountains to the western inland seaway. Even the cruel drought season could not take away her broad mind, and she still irrigated and nourished the greenery and life with an endless source of life. Here we are. After more than a month of long-distance migration, Chu Xu's family finally arrived at this fertile land full of vitality. In the moist and warm air, the grass and trees are lush and green, and the waters are surrounded by rivers and lakes, from low clusters of ferns to tall shrubs of Alsophila spinulosa, from lonely cycads to clusters of magnolias, from mighty rivers to trickling streams and quiet lakes. This fertile land, which is rarely seen in the dry season, provides an excellent living environment for various animals, and the diverse organisms. Rich series and communities form a complete food chain, allowing various organisms to restrict and depend on each other. The migrating army of herbivorous dinosaurs has arrived before Chu Xu's family. He can see their figures everywhere when he looks at the vast delta plain. The familiar Triceratops, Torosaurus, Edmontosaurus, Ankylosaurus, strange dragon, Pachycephalosaurus, Strangosaurus, Struthiomimus, Leptoceratops. In the next short period of time, they don't have to travel long distances and work hard, and can stay here temporarily until the rainy season comes next year, and then migrate back to the north. In addition, there are dinosaurs that Chu Xu had rarely or even never seen before. There is the last sauropod dinosaur Lamosaurus, the close relative of Triceratops breviceratops, the close relative of Edmontosaurus noble dragon, the close relative of Ankylosaurus glyptodon, the close relative of Styx-raptor Navajo war dragon, etc. These dinosaurs are the natives of this southern delta plain. When compared with the dinosaurs from the northern deciduous forest, many similarities can be found, but there are also differences. It is true that the land and water nurture the animals. Continuing to walk along the main channel of the Missouri River, Chu Xu finally saw a shallow sea beyond the horizon at the end of his vision. This is the western inland seaway that divided the North American continent into two in the Cretaceous period. The western interior seaway is a large inland sea. At its largest, it stretched from the Rocky Mountains in the west to the Appalachian Mountains in the east, with a width of 970 kilometers. It runs through the Arctic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico from north to south, with a length of 3,200 kilometers and a maximum depth of nearly 800 meters. Its area is comparable to the Mediterranean Sea in later times. However, at the end of the Cretaceous period, the Laramide orogeny caused the North American land plate to rise, and the western interior seaway gradually shrank. It completely disappeared in the Cenozoic era after the extinction of the dinosaurs. The western interior seaway in front of Chu Xu is now much smaller, but it is still magnificent and legendary. It was a warm and rich sea area. The inflow of rivers made its water lighter, rich in plankton and algae, and a large number of crustaceans, gastropods, bivalves and ammonites. There were also dusk birds and fish birds that were good at diving and fishing, huge ancient giant turtles, and giant squids comparable to giant squids. Fierce predatory fish such as sharks, lance-toothed fish, swordfish, protacilus, and Bang's kun, as well as plesiosaurs and mosasaurs that were at the top of the marine food chain. Because this sea area was full of various prehistoric huge and ferocious marine animals, it was unique throughout the history of the Earth, so it got a horrifying title, Hell Aquarium. The land, sea and sky of North America at this point in time are all hell versions. Chu Xu secretly complained that in this version of North America on the eve of the dinosaur extinction, the land, sea and sky were all hell-level difficult. There are Tyrannosaurus Rex on land, Mosasaurus in the ocean, Quetzalcoatlus in the sky, and other land dinosaurs, marine fish, and birds in the sky are also advancing in parallel, with 100 schools of thought contending. But it is precisely because of this that future life will be more challenging. As night fell, Chu Xu's family, who had been on the road all day, found a place to rest temporarily. Exhausted, Xianyu and Liuxing fell asleep. After more than a month of long-distance migration, they were thinner than before. Fortunately, they all persisted, and the days to come will slowly get better. The exhausted mother of dragons lay down, just closed her eyes and rested, without falling asleep. Now their family is still in a wandering state, and they have not found a new territory. They may be attacked by other predators at any time, so the mother of dragons did not relax their vigilance. Chu Xu did not rush to sleep, but looked up at the starry sky, checked his current situation, and thought about his next plan. Check my attribute panel. With a command, the data panel in front of him popped up immediately. Name, Chu Xu. Age, 12 months. Race, Agumon. Male. Growth stage, juvenile. 4-dimensional attributes, Strength 415, Agility 415, Constitution 435, Spirit 425, Evolution points 30. Skills, Flame Claw, Flame Fang, Flash Charge, High Speed Movement, Special Move, Small Flame. Achievements, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Elementary, Telepathic Perception, Elementary, Fluid Armament, Elementary. Next evolutionary form, Tyrannosaurus Rex. In the blink of an eye, it has been almost a year since Chu Xu was born. Counting the days, it will be Chu Xu's first birthday in a few days. However, at this time, Chu Xu's physical development is comparable to that of a 9-10-year-old juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it is not far from the 14-year-old youth. At that time, Chu Xu should leave Longma and officially start living independently. Chapter 41. Fighting the Landlord, Grabbing the Territory. Second round of recommendation, please read and recommend. The next morning, the sky was clear and the air was fresh. Chu Xu got up early and completed today's skill proficiency training. Although he had been migrating long distances for some time, he did not fall behind in daily training, and his proficiency was still accumulating and improving little by little. After the training, Chu Xu opened the meat storage bag he carried with him, took out a few pieces of dinosaur jerky and ate them as breakfast. These dinosaur jerky, which were dried with fire, were made by Chu Xu on the migration. It took less time than smoked meat. Although the taste was average, it was easy to operate, saved time, and had a shelf life of about 1 month. Thanks to Chu Xu's habit of packing and storing food, his family did not have to eat the next meal after the previous one on the migration, and was able to survive the hard life of more than a month. The food is running out again, and it's time to go buy more. Chu Xu, whose appetite had increased greatly, ate more than 100 kilograms of jerky in one meal before he felt full. The taste of the dried meat was really not good. It was tasteless and a pity to throw it away. Chu Xu's mouth was almost dry. He missed the steaming fresh raw meat very much. Roar. Long Ma had also woken up and let out a low roar, urging Xianyu and Liuxing, who were still sleeping in, to get up. They didn't need to migrate again today, but they had to find a place to settle down as a territory as soon as possible. Without her own territory, Long Ma couldn't even sleep peacefully at night, and she would always worry about foreign enemies invading and attacking. If you want to find a new territory, there are only two choices. Either find an unowned land, or go to rob the owned land. In comparison, the first option is the safest, and there is no need to fight. However, most of these unowned lands are scarce in resources, and it is difficult to meet the living needs of Chu Xu's family. The second option is much simpler and cruder. Fighting landlords and grabbing territory. As long as the fist is strong enough, any kind of feng shui treasure land can be robbed. Of course, the danger is also very high. After all, as an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex, Long Ma can compete with those small and medium-sized carnivorous dinosaurs for territory, but has to fight with its own kind. When two tigers fight, one must be injured, not to mention the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which has a stronger fighting power. Once injured, the survival of the Tyrannosaurus Rex will be affected, and even threaten its life. The cost is too huge, so it must be very cautious. Roar. Long Ma called out, and took the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex to move, traveling through this strange land, looking for a place for their family to live in the future. In the Maastrichtian period of the late Cretaceous, Tyrannosaurus Rex was widely distributed in all corners of the Laramidia subcontinent in North America, and the number was also very large, ranking first among carnivorous dinosaurs. Chu Xu had read a study in the magazine Science in his previous life. According to paleontologists' calculations, in the approximately 2.5 million years since the appearance of Tyrannosaurus Rex, a total of 2.5 billion Tyrannosaurus Rex have lived on Earth. At the same time, there were about 20,000 adult Tyrannosaurus Rex living in the Laramidia subcontinent, with an average of one adult individual per 100 square kilometers, which means that its distribution range reached 2 million square kilometers. These figures are indeed somewhat shocking, and the specific authenticity is unknown, but they are enough to prove the large number and wide distribution of Tyrannosaurus Rex. At this time, in a forest near the coast, the araucaria trees that grow towards the sun are densely packed like upright swords, and the treetops are connected into dark green clouds. The tributaries of the Missouri River meander through it, and the water surface is shining with skylight. It nourishes the roots of the trees and cultivates the blood of the forest. The herbivorous dinosaurs in this coastal forest all know that this area is the territory of a young Tyrannosaurus Rex, and every dusk falls, the other party will go out hunting on time. A horror. In the shadows of the trees, a group of small noble dragons of the duck-billed dinosaur family are fleeing in a panic, and following closely behind is a young female Tyrannosaurus Rex. She is already 18 years old this year, approaching adulthood, with a body length of 11 meters and a tonnage of more than 7 tons, which can be regarded as a standard Tyrannosaurus Rex. Bang! Under the pressure of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex, a panicked little noble dragon slipped and fell to the ground. When it wanted to get up again, the young Tyrannosaurus Rex had already approached, opened its bloody mouth and bit the little noble dragon's neck, violently crushing its cervical vertebrae. With a prey in hand, the hungry young Tyrannosaurus Rex enjoyed the feast on the spot. This area is her territory, and the young Tyrannosaurus Rex has no worries and can enjoy the delicious food at ease. HMPH. However, her keen sense of smell quickly caught a strange smell coming from not far away. It was the smell of the same kind. There is an intruder. Roar. The young Tyrannosaurus Rex immediately roared to the sky, and the deafening roar turned into a whistling wind that made the surrounding vast forests emit waves of pine waves. She didn't care to continue eating, and took big strides to rush in the direction of the smell. Soon, she arrived at the scene and saw an adult female Tyrannosaurus Rex that was even bigger than her. It was 12 meters long and weighed at least 8 tons. Its trunk and hind limbs were particularly strong, and strong muscles bulged from its neck, shoulders, back, and hind limbs. Its scales flowed with a granite-like hard luster, full of powerful explosive power. This adult female Tyrannosaurus Rex was the mother of dragons. With her size, she was considered to be sturdy among adult Tyrannosaurus Rex. Roar. The mother of dragons had already settled the 3 little Tyrannosaurus Rex in advance, so there was no worry. She was able to show the majesty and domineering of an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex. A loud roar shook the entire forest violently, and countless birds and beasts fled in panic. Roar. Although shocked by the size of Dragon Mother, the young Tyrannosaurus Rex had no intention of retreating. This was the territory she had finally found, so how could she give it up easily? The two sides maintained a confrontation, constantly roaring. The atmosphere was tense, and the battle was about to break out. Dragon Mother, as the intruder and attacker, took the lead in launching an offensive and rushed towards the young Tyrannosaurus Rex as the defender. The young Tyrannosaurus Rex was not to be outdone and quickly attacked. Bang! When the two huge Tyrannosaurus Rex collided, the air seemed to have exploded violently, venting a large amount of airwaves. In the first round of collision, the winner was immediately determined, and the young Tyrannosaurus Rex was knocked back by Dragon Mother. Although he was at a disadvantage, the young Tyrannosaurus Rex was not so easily defeated. After stabilizing his body, he used his most deadly big mouth and banana teeth to bite Dragon Mother. Dragon Mother fought back, colliding fiercely with the opponent again, launching the most direct and bloody close combat. The thick short neck twisted wildly, the bloody mouth and sharp teeth opened angrily and bit, and the 2 pairs of diamond eyes were bloodshot. Just when the battle between Dragon Mother and the young Tyrannosaurus Rex entered the white-hot stage, a half-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared silently behind the young Tyrannosaurus Rex, took advantage of the latter's unpreparedness, and jumped onto the latter's back. The second round of recommendations today. Continue to ask for follow-up reading and recommendation votes. The author is working hard to save the manuscript. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. A bicycle turns into a motorcycle. The territory changes owners. Please read and recommend. This half-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex was naturally Chu Xu. Dragon Mother had originally placed him and Crescent Moon Luxing in a safe place, so that they would not run around. However, Chu Xu was still a little worried, so he sneaked out to check on Dragon Mother. From a distance, Chu Xu heard the huge noise of Dragon Mother fighting with the opponent, which was earth-shaking. It seems that Dragon Mother still has the upper hand, but the opponent's attack is also very desperate, and the battle will not end for a while. Chu Xu did not approach rashly, but first observed the battle situation with telepathy for a while and determined the situation. This was not the first time Chu Xu saw two adult Tyrannosaurus Rex fighting. The last time he saw it was the battle between Dragon Father and the one-eyed Tyrannosaurus Rex. At that time, he was still weak and did not dare to get involved. But now is different from the past. Chu Xu is no longer the Agumon. Not only has his body size soared by more than double, but he has also mastered intermediate skills, and his combat effectiveness has increased exponentially. Although it is still impossible to compete head-on with an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex, with a mother of dragons as the main attacker, it is no problem to play a supporting role. Fight hard, and the bicycle becomes a motorcycle. Chu Xu quietly went around the back of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex, took advantage of her unpreparedness and launched a surprise attack, leaping onto her back. This back-jumping move is the specialty of carnivorous dinosaurs of the Dromaeosauridae family. Chu Xu also learned it from the Styx raptor and Dakitoraptor. Don't underestimate the power of this move. The Styx raptor and Dakitoraptor used this move to hunt many herbivorous dinosaurs that were much larger than them. Even the Tyrannosaurus Rex did not have a good way to deal with this move. After all, their heads could not turn 180 degrees to bite the enemy on their backs. The poor short arms and hardtails were even more helpless, and they could only rely on the power of the body swing to throw the enemy off. Roar! The young Tyrannosaurus Rex, who was concentrating on fighting with Dragon Mother, suddenly felt something jump onto his back, which was quite heavy. He twisted his body hurriedly, trying to throw the other off. Puff! But Chu Xu's pair of claws on his limbs, which were armed with the liquid, had already pierced deeply into the skin of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex like nails, firmly fixing his body. No matter how hard the young Tyrannosaurus Rex swung his body, he couldn't throw Chu Xu off his back, wasting a lot of effort. Roar! Dragon Mother on the other side was also surprised to see Chu Xu suddenly appear. But now Chu Xu also won a rare opportunity for her. Dragon Mother's eyes were fierce, and she attacked without hesitation, approaching in 2 steps, biting the neck of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex with her fangs, and pulling its body fiercely with the strength of the neck. Feeling the terrifying bite force from the neck, the young Tyrannosaurus Rex almost felt that his cervical vertebrae were about to break. He struggled with all his might and barely escaped from the deadly mouth of the Dragon Mother. It can be seen that there were 2 rows of teeth marks on her neck that were deep enough to see the bone. The skin and flesh on it were torn off by the serrations attached to the edge of the Dragon Mother's banana teeth when she was struggling. The blood was dripping and shocking. This blow has caused severe damage to the young Tyrannosaurus Rex. It is unknown how long it will take to recover. At this time, she no longer dared to entangle with the Dragon Mother. If the Green Mountains are there, there is no fear of running out of firewood. If the territory is lost, you can find another one, but if you lose your life, you will have nothing. The young Tyrannosaurus Rex turned around and ran, but she forgot that there was a small silver coin hanging on her body. Want to run? Chu Xu saw the young Tyrannosaurus Rex's intention to escape. He kept the front claws fixed in a fixed position, and a pair of thicker and blunter hind claws were swung high and backward, and the surface was instantly armed with liquid weapons and blazing flames. This move is called the Devil's Wind Kick. Tear. Chu Xu kicked the young Tyrannosaurus Rex's hind thigh, and the claws that were more than 10 centimeters long pierced into its rough skin like a dagger. The high temperature attached to it was like a piece of iron deeply contacting its muscles, making a hissing burning sound, and wisps of white smoke. Roar! Even the young Tyrannosaurus Rex couldn't bear this kind of severe pain, and couldn't help but let out a painful howl. The running huge dragon body also stopped abruptly and fell to the ground with a bang. When the young Tyrannosaurus Rex was about to fall to the ground, Chu Xu released her front claws in time and jumped off her body. Otherwise, if she was not careful, she would be crushed and miserable. The opponent's weight of 7 tons is not a joke. And her falling to the ground like this was almost equivalent to being sentenced to death. Dragon Mother didn't intend to let this young Tyrannosaurus Rex go easily. If she let her escape, she would probably come back for revenge in the future and vent her anger on her children. But if the other party insisted on escaping, she would hardly have a chance to kill him. Unexpectedly, Chu Xu gave her a big surprise, knocking the young Tyrannosaurus to the ground in one fell swoop. Long Ma took the opportunity to bite its neck again, and the upper and lower jaws were tightly closed like a vice, and the explosive bite force reached an extremely terrifying level. This time, the young Tyrannosaurus Rex was no longer able to escape from Long Ma's bloody mouth. The carotid artery was bitten off on the spot, and blood flowed like a stream. For a while, he exhaled more than inhaled, and collapsed to the ground and gradually died. Dead. Ling. You participated in hunting a Tyrannosaurus Rex, evolution points plus 100. A full 100 evolution points. It really deserves to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The assist alone is worth 3-digit evolution points. It is the highest single kill Chu Xu has ever made. Chu Xu looked at the huge corpse of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was as big as a hill, and his mood was very excited. Not only is there a sense of excitement after hunting down a powerful enemy, but there is also a special warning: even a powerful Tyrannosaurus Rex is not invincible, and there will be more powerful species that can threaten their lives. The entire Tyrannosaurus Rex population is so large, and the resources in the region are extremely limited, which means that conflicts often break out between them. Fossil materials from later generations also prove that they often kill each other. Roar. After killing the young Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Dragon Mother was also excited, raised her head high, and roared loudly. The deep and grand roar was like thunder from the plain, extremely penetrating, sweeping across a radius of several kilometers and echoing for a long time. The meaning of this roar is self-evident, and it is a declaration to all the animals within the territory: this territory has a new owner. However, although the battle was a complete victory, Longma was also seriously injured. There were also many wounds on her body from the teeth and claws of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex. She was bleeding. Her injuries were more serious than when she faced the Dacaraptor family before. Although not fatal, her movements were more or less affected. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 43, The Giant Alamosaurus, the Iron-Headed Baby Pachycephalosaurus. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. Chu Xu was helpless to help Long Ma's injuries. The healing points exchanged by the system could only be used on himself for the time being. Long Ma ignored the injuries all over her body. She first found the hiding place of Xianyu and Liuxing and brought them back. Then she kept marking her scratches or smells on the nearby trees and rocks, marking this place as her core territory. After finishing these things, she came to the corpse of the young Tyrannosaurus Rex, crouched down and enjoyed the fresh blood and flesh with peace of mind. Chu Xu also tasted the so-called Tyrannosaurus Rex meat, which was still the typical sour taste of carnivorous dinosaur meat. Moreover, because the muscle fibers of Tyrannosaurus Rex were very dense, the meat was dry, hard and tough, and it took a lot of effort to tear it apart. In a word, it was unpalatable. Moreover, as a predator at the top of the land food chain, it is conceivable how much toxins were accumulated in the body of Tyrannosaurus Rex. So Chu Xu only tried a few bites and didn't eat any more. He turned around and opened the system, and exchanged the evolution points he had just obtained for attribute points to strengthen his own 4-dimensional attributes. Soon the data changed significantly again: 4-dimensional attributes, strength 440, agility 440, constitution 460, spirit 450. The heat of the enhanced attributes washed over Chu Xu's limbs and bones, making him feel refreshed. After the enhancement, Chu Xu came to a nearby river and used the reflection of the water to check the changes in his body. With a body length of 4 meters and a head height of 2 meters, the weight is roughly estimated to be 1.3 tons, which is equivalent to the size of a normal 10-year-old Tyrannosaurus Rex. Chu Xu's real age is only 1 year old, which is really terrifying in comparison. Fortunately, there are no crazy humans in this world, otherwise he would have been captured and sliced for research. However, Chu Xu was still not satisfied with this. The long-distance migration last month reduced his efficiency in obtaining evolution points a lot. Now that he finally has a fairly stable life and more prey, it is time to improve the efficiency of obtaining evolution points. Roarlong Ma, Xianyu and Liuxing were still eating. Chu Xu greeted them and planned to explore this new territory and get familiar with the new environment. The injured Long Ma was unable to move, so it was difficult for her to hunt successfully. Xianyu and Liuxing were still young, so the burden of food for their family fell on Chu Xu, and the pressure was not small. But life is like this, there are gains and losses, sweetness and bitterness, opportunities and challenges, and Chu Xu gladly accepted this challenge. Be brave and don't be afraid of difficulties. The coastal forest at the junction of land and sea is green all year round. The trees grow densely and towering, the green waves spread to the sky, and the forest in the distant mountains is steaming with wisps of white mist. What is this? Chu Xu, who was quickly shuttling between the coastal forests, suddenly found that the ground in front of him was inexplicably sunken. There was flat land all around, so why was there suddenly a large depression here? Continuing to walk forward, Chu Xu discovered that there was a similar depression every few meters. No, this is not a depression at all, it's clearly a footprint. Chu Xu was suddenly shocked and quickly reacted. This is a typical sauropod dinosaur footprint, very similar to an elephant's footprint. It is circular in shape with a circumference of about 1.7 meters, which is comparable to the height of an adult. What kind of huge creature can leave such a large footprint? Moreover, each footprint has completely formed an independent microhabitat, where many microorganisms, even insects and amphibians live. And when the footprints disappeared, Chu Xu suddenly heard a long and distant sound, and what appeared in front of him was a real giant Alamosaurus. Alamosaurus, a giant herbivorous dinosaur of the Saltosauridae family of the titanosaurs, can reach a length of more than 25 meters from head to tail, and weighs from 30 to 50 tons. It is undoubtedly the first giant dinosaur in North America during the late Cretaceous, and one of the last sauropods in the dinosaur era. As a sauropod dinosaur, Alamosaurus also has a signature small head, long neck, huge body, and long tail. In addition, its body is covered with fist-sized bone plates and rough, thick bristles, which are daunting just by looking at it. So big. Chu Xu was amazed. In front of Alamosaurus, he could only reach its knees, and his body was not as long as its tail. Even an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex is dwarfed by Alamosaurus. The adult Alamosaurus stood up with its huge body, supported by its thick pillar-like hind legs and slender tail like a whip, and stretched its 10-meter-long neck to the top of the tree, eating leaves and tender branches. In this posture, the head of the Alamosaurus almost touched the 15-meter-high air, which is equivalent to the height of a 5-story building. With its huge body, the adult Alamosaurus has almost no natural enemies. Even the adult Tyrannosaurus Rex dared not to attack such a giant, and at most bullied the underage Alamosaurus. I don't know how much evolution I have to hunt such a giant dragon. Chu Xu thought to himself. How many evolution points can I get by hunting such an adult Alamosaurus? But it's useless to think about these things now. Since he can't afford to provoke it, Chu Xu didn't disturb the Alamosaurus and went in another direction. Not long after he started walking, Chu Xu found the activity traces of a group of iron-headed Pachycephalosaur and found their location by following the traces. Pachycephalosaur, also known as Pachycephalosaur, is a medium-sized herbivorous dinosaur of the family Pachycephalosaur of the order Ornithischidae. It is a relative of the Styxosaur that Chu Xu had encountered before. However, Pachycephalosaur is much larger than Styxosaur, with a body length of about 4.5 meters and a weight of 1.5 tons. Compared with Styxosaur, Pachycephalosaur has no high protruding bone spikes on its skull, but the bone shed formed by the skull on the top of its head is even larger and thicker, 25 centimeters thick, comparable to a large bowling ball. A small group of more than a dozen Pachycephalosaurs of different sizes moved in the forest, searching for leaves, twigs, plant seeds and even insects to eat. Several young Pachycephalosaurs were full and were playing and fighting behind their parents. Their favorite game was headbutt. They began to practice the iron head skills passed down from generation to generation since they were young. Come, Uncle will play with you guys, okay? At this time, the little Pachycephalosaurs flashed before their eyes, and saw a half-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex with a big grin on its face. Chu Xu tried his best to show a friendly expression, but it still scared the little Pachycephalosaurs and made them scream and run away in a hurry. It seems that their parents taught them well, and they know not to touch strange dragons outside casually. Bring it here. Chu Xu's face suddenly changed, returning to his usual ferocious look. He opened his mouth and bit the neck of a nearby little pachycephalosaur, and easily bit it off. Without stopping, Chu Xu caught up with the second little pachycephalosaur in one step, and sent it to the dinosaur star again with a lightning-fast claw attack. Ling. You hunted a young pachycephalosaur, evolution points plus 15. Ling. You hunted a young pachycephalosaur, evolution points plus 15. Killing 2 little pachycephalic dragons was enough. Chu Xu still knew that he couldn't kill all the fish. He would let the other little pachycephalic dragons go for now, and let them repay his kindness when they grow up. Chu Xu's real target was the adult pachycephalic dragons. The adult pachycephalic dragons turned around after hearing the noise behind them, and what they saw was the scene of Chu Xu killing the 2 little pachycephalic dragons. Rage filled their chests, and the adult pachycephalic dragons immediately took the classic iron head posture, lowered their front bodies, stretched their bodies straight into a straight line, and charged at the same time, rushing towards Chu Xu. Chapter 44, A Family Must Be Neat and Tidy. Enemy attacks halfway. Please read and recommend. The power of the iron head skill of the Pachycephalosaurus should not be underestimated. They can attack at a speed of 3 meters per second in a short distance. With their tonnage, ordinary small and medium-sized carnivorous dinosaurs will most likely be defeated if they are hit by such a blow. Chu Xu had no intention of resisting it. He moved at high speed and instantly circled to the side of the Pachycephalosaurus. After all, the Pachycephalosaurus performing the iron head skill would not turn, but would only attack in a straight line. It was actually very easy to dodge. The Pachycephalosaurus soon found that they had missed the target and had to stop and raise their heads again to find the enemy's position. Gotcha! At this moment, a bloody mouth that had been ready to attack came from the side and bit the neck of the closest female Pachycephalosaurus accurately. When the female Pachycephalosaurus screamed, her body weighing more than 1 ton was easily lifted up like a chicken, her feet lifted off the ground, and finally thrown out like a hand-thrown ball. Bang! The female Pachycephalosaur flew more than 10 meters, until it hit a bowl-sized tree, breaking the whole tree in half, and finally stopped the impact and fell to the ground. After being thrown, hit, and thrown, the female Pachycephalosaur's body had already been overwhelmed, and countless bones were broken. The whole dragon fainted. Chu Xu easily dealt with an adult female Pachycephalosaur. He had a direct feeling of his current strength. Generally, medium-sized herbivorous dinosaurs could be easily controlled. The next second, a sturdy male Pachycephalosaur's eyes turned red, and he once again put on the posture of Iron Head Kung Fu. A huge protruding skull bone shed was wrapped with 1,000 pounds of force, and rushed towards Chu Xu with a roar. This time, Chu Xu was too lazy to dodge. Bang! The male Pachycephalosaur crashed into the damn Tyrannosaurus Rex as he wished. He was confident that his iron head skills would be enough to break the opponent's bones and muscles, and make him pay a painful price for killing his wife and children. However, when the male Pachycephalosaur really crashed into Chu Xu, he felt as if he had crashed into a hard reef. Not only could he not shake it at all, but he was also greatly shocked and his brain was severely concussed. The skull bone shed of the Pachycephalosaur can be divided into 3 layers. The first layer is the cartilage structure, the second layer is the blood vessel structure, and the third layer is the sponge structure. The 3 layers of structure combined together are a natural protective helmet, which is enough to greatly reduce the damage caused by the head collision. But even so, the male Pachycephalosaur was still dizzy and almost unstable. Roar! Just let the male Pachycephalosaur have a round, and now it's Chu Xu's turn. Crash! Chu Xu quickly transferred the liquid weapon from the part where the male Pachycephalosaur had just hit to his own head, and imitated the posture of the iron head skill to launch a collision. His muscles bulged and his strength was doubled. The offensive and defensive situation changed. The male Pachycephalosaur had no time to parry, and was hit in the chest by Chu Xu, who attacked in an instant. The whole dragon flew into the air and rotated several times in the air, just like the aerial rotation action of diving. Unfortunately, the final result was not falling into the water, but landing firmly. When the male Pachycephalosaur landed, not only did his bones break, but even his internal organs were widely ruptured due to the strong shock. A large amount of blood leaked out of his body surface, and gathered into a river in the blink of an eye. It was obvious that he would not survive. So terrifying. The other Pachycephalosaurs thought that Chu Xu was just a half-grown young Tyrannosaurus Rex and was not to be feared. Who would have thought that the fighting power he showed was so terrible? It turned out that the anger in his chest was vented, and it was replaced by the natural fear of facing carnivorous dinosaurs. The Pachycephalosaurs turned around and ran away. They were also very smart. They fled to the direction where the Alamosaurus was. When small and medium-sized herbivorous dinosaurs encounter strong enemies, they often seek shelter from other large herbivorous dinosaurs. Large herbivorous dinosaurs generally don't care when they see them, but they will fight back when they see carnivorous dinosaurs. Chu Xu did not continue to pursue them. He harvested 4 Pachycephalosaurs, 2 large and 2 small. His hunting results today were already very rich. Soon, Chu Xu gave the 2 dying Pachycephalosaur couples a quick death and went to hell together. A family of dragons must be neat and tidy. Ling. You hunted a Pachycephalosaur, evolution points plus 50. Ling. You hunted a Pachycephalosaur, evolution points plus 50. After collecting the evolution points, Chu Xu buried his head and began to enjoy the food. After eating the internal organs of the female Pachycephalosaur, Chu Xu suddenly thought, the skull of the Pachycephalosaur is so thick, I wonder what the brain looks like, is it delicious? In his previous life, Chu Xu liked to eat roasted brain, which was made by mixing pig brain with chili powder and Sichuan pepper powder. It has a mellow smell, is soft in the mouth, fragrant but not greasy, and oily but not fat. There was no pig brain in the Cretaceous period, but there was dinosaur brain. Chu Xu has not tried it for a long time, mainly because the skull is too difficult to open. Chu Xu was determined to try it today, so he used the liquid weapon to strengthen his front claws, and finally pried open the thick skull of the female Pachycephalosaur with great effort. There was only a walnut-sized brain in the skull of the male Pachycephalosaur, and the zombies shook their heads when they saw it. Chu Xu was embarrassed. Well, it turns out that dinosaur brains can't be counted on. The brain of a dinosaur is indeed not proportional to its huge body, it is pitifully small. The large sauropod dinosaur weighing dozens of tons has a brain only the size of a tennis ball. The brain capacity of carnivorous dinosaurs is slightly larger, but not much better. For example, the brain of Tyrannosaurus Rex is only 330 grams, which is not as heavy as the 400-gram brain of a human baby, let alone an adult. However, this is the result of natural selection. A larger brain is not necessarily a good thing. After all, the brain is a very energy-consuming organ. Although the human brain only accounts for 2% of the human body, it consumes 20% of the human body's energy. If dinosaurs want a bigger brain, they need to eat more food or reduce the energy consumption of other organs of the body, which is too difficult for huge dinosaurs. I don't know if my brain will be bigger. Chu Xu couldn't help but daydream. Mental attributes correspond to one's own mental strength, 5 senses, neural regulation, and even memory learning, thinking logic, and adaptability. Every time the mental attribute value is strengthened, he can clearly feel a trace of warm current passing through his brain, as if it is subtly transforming it. But there is no way to pry open his skull and take a look at what his brain looks like. Forget it, let's go home. After filling his stomach, Chu Xu stuffed the 2 little Pachycephalosaurs back into the stomach of the female Pachycephalosaur, which had its abdomen cut open and its internal organs eaten, and then held her and the male's tails in his mouth and shipped them home. As he was walking on the road, Chu Xu's telepathic perception suddenly caught a huge black shadow emerging from the bushes not far behind him, rushing towards him without saying anything, and his target was himself. Chapter 45, The Attack of the Nanotyrannosaurus. The hidden time bomb around you. Please read and recommend. Enemy attack. Chu Xu reacted immediately, put down the prey in his mouth, and jumped to the side at a distance of more than 10 meters at high speed. The huge black shadow obviously did not expect Chu Xu to react so quickly, and it pounced on nothing. It was not until this time that Chu Xu saw the true face of the other party. Roar. It was a large Tyrannosaurus Rex with a body length of more than 7 meters. The huge and ferocious lizard head was raised high, and the thick fangs with thick lips were exposed to the air. The smelly saliva dripped from the corners of its mouth. There were dark black manes on its neck that were as sharp as needles, spreading along its strong and broad back to its thick tail. The limbs were also extremely slender, agile and powerful. The roaring sound set off a wave of air waves, which made it even more ferocious and brutal. Is this Tyrannosaurus Rex? No, the opponent's limbs are much longer than those of ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the body is thinner than that of Tyrannosaurus Rex of the same length. Is this a dwarf Tyrannosaurus Rex? Exclamation mark. It was the first time for Chu Xu to see a large carnivorous dinosaur like the Tyrannosaurus. In his previous life, he also questioned whether the Tyrannosaurus really existed. He didn't expect to see a living Tyrannosaurus today. This guy is coming for me. Chu Xu thought that the Tyrannosaurus wanted to snatch the food in his mouth, but the other party stared at him from beginning to end, and didn't even look at the corpse of the Pachycephalosaurus next to him. The cold vertical pupils revealed a tyrannical and bloodthirsty intention. The animal world is indeed so unreasonable. Even if the two sides have just met for the first time and have no hatred or grudges, they may become enemies who will never stop fighting. Like other carnivorous dinosaurs, the Tyrannosaurus also regards the underage Tyrannosaurus Rex as a thorn in the eye and a thorn in the flesh, and the degree of hatred is full. They will specifically look for the Tyrannosaurus Rex that is alone or without the protection of the mother, and even break into the core territory of the adult Tyrannosaurus Rex, trying every means to strangle it in the cradle. The Tyrannosaurus in front of him is probably not passing by here by chance. It is very likely that the other party has already set his sights on the three little Tyrannosaurus Rex of Chu Xu. It's really painstaking. Roar. Chu Xu's muscles were tense, and his pair of vertical pupils, which were also filled with anger and coldness, locked onto the distant dwarf Tyrannosaurus. The opponent was larger than him in size, with a body length of more than 7 meters, a head height of 3 meters, and a tonnage of 2 tons. Facing such a larger carnivorous dinosaur, the deterrent effect of the primary Tyrannosaurus did not have much effect. Moreover, he had experienced a battle with the young Tyrannosaurus Rex and the hunting of the Pachycephalosaurus, and his physical strength had been consumed by more than half. Whether in size or state, he was at a disadvantage. If you want to defeat the dwarf Tyrannosaurus Rex, you must use unexpected means and fight quickly. At the same time, the pupils of the dwarf Tyrannosaurus Rex were fierce. It had already smelled the familiar smell on Chu Xu, which was the little Tyrannosaurus Rex that he found in the Tyrannosaurus Rex territory more than a month ago. It was rare for the other party to go out hunting alone without the protection of an adult Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was necessary to take this opportunity to kill him to avoid more trouble. Roar. The dwarf Tyrannosaurus kicked with its vigorous hind legs, lowered its front body slightly, and rushed out like a tiger leaping into a stream, with amazing explosive power, opening its mouth and biting Chu Xu. Roar. Chu Xu's hind legs, which had been fully charged, were like springs that suddenly released, driving the huge dragon body to launch at a faster speed. A violent and turbulent air wave swept over with Chu Xu's charge, wrapping its entire body in it, and then ignited a blazing flame, turning into a whistling fireball. Flashing charge. When the dwarf Tyrannosaurus saw this scene, its face suddenly changed, and the fierce momentum just now disappeared. Its instinctive reaction was to flee in panic. Bang! But how could the dwarf Tyrannosaurus escape? The fireball that Chu Xu transformed into fell on it in an instant, causing the dwarf Tyrannosaurus to be blown away directly, dragging a shocking gully from the ground like a plow. Although this attack did not kill the dwarf Tyrannosaurus directly, it had already severely injured it. The scales on its body were burned by the high-temperature flames and cracked inch by inch. The internal organs and bones in its body were damaged and broken to varying degrees. Black and red dirty blood flowed out and stained the ground. However, Chu Xu, who suffered the counter-injury of the flash charge, was not feeling well. The stronger the enemy he attacked, the higher the counter-injury effect. After regaining his footing, his body could not help but tremble slightly, his muscles were numb, and his blood was surging. He was already somewhat exhausted. Roared the dwarf Tyrannosaurus, with a very tenacious vitality, barely supported its body. It still didn't know what had just happened, but only knew that the opponent it had provoked this time was extremely dangerous and terrifying. It didn't dare to stay there any longer, dragging its seriously injured body and desperately running away. Chu Xu did not continue to chase it. His poor physical condition was one thing, and the dwarf Tyrannosaurus was only severely injured, not fatally, so it was not that easy to kill it. What's more, based on Chu Xu's understanding of the dwarf Tyrannosaurus, the other party hunted in a family unit. This is a male dwarf Tyrannosaurus. His presence here means that a female dwarf Tyrannosaurus with a larger body and stronger combat power may also be nearby. It would be even more dangerous if we continue to pursue alone. Retreat. Of the 36 strategies, running away is the best strategy. Chu Xu took a deep breath and dragged the bodies of the two Pachycephalosaurus away from the scene quickly. This time the male dwarf Tyrannosaurus was lucky enough to escape. The next time they meet, Chu Xu will definitely make him pay the real price. Roar. Sure enough, not long after Chu Xu left, another rough and wild roar sounded, and a dwarf Tyrannosaurus that was even larger appeared. This was a female dwarf Tyrannosaurus, and she was married to the male dwarf Tyrannosaurus that was severely injured by Chu Xu. They were originally searching for the traces of the three small Tyrannosaurus Rex separately, but the male dwarf Tyrannosaurus met Chu Xu first and a fight broke out. The female dwarf Tyrannosaurus on the other side noticed the movement and finally rushed over and found the seriously injured male dwarf Tyrannosaurus. Roar. The female dwarf Tyrannosaurus did not expect her husband to be so seriously injured. In this territory, the only enemy that could injure him so badly was an adult Tyrannosaurus. Roar. But the answer given by the male dwarf Tyrannosaurus surprised the female dwarf Tyrannosaurus. His injury was caused by a young Tyrannosaurus. The opponent used some unprecedented attack moves, and even produced extremely high-temperature flames in his body, which instantly injured him. His skin and flesh were severely burned, and his internal organs and bones were seriously damaged. That scene has formed a nightmare shadow, deeply engraved in the mind of the male dwarf Tyrannosaurus, so that he will never forget it. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 46 Developing a New Trick, Small Explosion. Please read and recommend. When Chu Xu dragged the prey back home tiredly, Long Ma and Long Yu Liuzing were also surprised. They were not surprised at how Chu Xu hunted so many prey, but that he was not in good condition. He was so tired that he fell down as soon as he got home. How Long Yu and Liuzing did not rush to enjoy the spoils brought back by their eldest brother, but came to Chu Xu, chirping like chickens, asking about his situation. Long Ma also hurried to Chu Xu and asked about it. She saw that Chu Xu had obviously experienced a fierce battle. Chu Xu raised his head and said that he was fine. With a treatment point to heal him, he would be back to normal after a good sleep. Then Chu Xu also informed Long Ma and the others about the appearance of the dwarf Tyrannosaurus. The language library of the Tyrannosaurus Rex was scarce, so Chu Xu could only simply tell them that there was an enemy in the territory. Roar. Hearing this, Long Ma immediately stood up, not caring about her unhealed injuries, and said that she would go out to inspect the new territory and drive out the enemies. Liuzing wanted to follow her, but Long Ma ordered her to stay at home and not go anywhere. Chu Xu also yelled at Liuzing, which made him stay at home and not dare to run around. Long Ma left quickly, and Chu Xu spent his evolution points to convert them into healing points, and then fell into deep sleep under the nourishment of the healing warm current. Not long after, Long Yu and Liuzing, who had been quiet and dared not disturb their eldest brother, heard Chu Xu's thunderous snoring. It was not until late at night that Long Ma, who had been out inspecting the new territory, came back, and Chu Xu woke up from his sleep. She had searched the entire territory and indeed found traces of the dwarf Tyrannosaurus, but the other party had already fled her territory. If you miss the first strike, you will flee thousands of miles away. Chu Xu nodded, but he did not let his guard down. The enemy might come back. Now Chu Xu has recovered to his peak state and is not afraid of them at all, but Long Yu and Liuzing are different. I have to find an opportunity to completely get rid of them later. Chu Xu thought to himself. The dwarf Tyrannosaurus tried every means to eliminate Chu Xu, a potential threat in the future, and Chu Xu now wanted to prevent this time bomb that has been hiding around him from threatening himself and Long Yu Liuzing again. It must be solved as soon as possible to prevent future troubles. Chu Xu began to think about how to deal with the dwarf Tyrannosaurus, and this time the imaginary enemy is a male and a female dwarf Tyrannosaurus, and the female dwarf Tyrannosaurus is even bigger and stronger than the male dwarf Tyrannosaurus in size and combat power. Although the power of the flash charge is strong enough to severely injure the Tyrannosaurus with one blow, this move also has its drawbacks. The reaction force and physical consumption are both very large. The power of the small flame is still not enough. After all, the Tyrannosaurus is not covered with feathers like Dakitaraptor and Troodon. At most, it can only burn part of its body. The rest of the flame fangs and flame claws require close combat. It is not the safest way to fight with fewer people and not have an advantage in size. It seems necessary to develop a new trick. With the current combat power and intermediate skills, Chu Xu is confident that he can defeat the Tyrannosaurus couple, but he still wants to win in a more stable way. He took action only when he was sure of winning. After all, the cost of being injured is not small. This treatment alone cost him 30 evolution points, which is a bit painful. Developing a new trick is actually an idea that Chu Xu had before. Agumon's ultimate move is to spit out more breath of fire from his mouth to attack the enemy with a small flame. Another subspecies of Agumon, Agumon S, has a more powerful special move besides the small flame, a small explosion that accumulates a small flame in the mouth and then blows it out in one breath to produce a small explosion. The new trick Chu Xu wants to develop is the small explosion. The next morning, Chu Xu got up early and began to practice the new trick. In order not to cause a forest fire, he specially came to the river near his home to practice, close to the water source and away from the vegetation. And the key to the small explosion is to accumulate a small flame in the mouth in advance, and then blow it out from the mouth after reaching the explosion limit, causing an explosion. Chu Xu thought to himself. Its principle is the same as combustion explosion, which belongs to combustion explosion, first burning with a small flame, and then causing an explosion during the burning process. Soon, a small flame was brewing in the depths of Chu Xu's throat, but this time he did not spit it out immediately, but accumulated it in his mouth. The continuous accumulation of flames turned Chu Xu's mouth into a furnace, the temperature rose steadily, and wisps of white smoke came out from the gap between his lips. During this process, Chu Xu had to concentrate, otherwise if he couldn't control it well, the furnace would explode and hurt himself. After feeling that the flames had reached a critical value, Chu Xu suddenly opened his mouth and spit it out in one breath. A ball of blazing flames flew out and fell towards the river surface dazzlingly. Bang! As soon as it touched the water surface, there was a sudden tremor in the air, and the flames suddenly exploded. Circles of surging fire waves rolled around, and hot and high-temperature flames danced and swept. The dazzling red, the rolling hot air, the air was shaking for a long time under the violent explosion, and the river was blown up with countless splashes. There happened to be a small and exquisite Hutchinson's turtle moving in the river. As a result, it was suddenly blown up by the explosion. It inexplicably flew into the sky with countless water splashes. Finally, with a snap, it fell on its forelegs in front of Chu Xu's feet. Chu Xu? A little turtle fell from the sky? I just practiced a skill and got a surprise? The Hutchinson's turtle belongs to the subfamily of Tyrannosaurus. It has a flat, oval body and a carapace on its back and abdomen. It is a small turtle about 30 centimeters long, just suitable for Chu Xu as a snack. The poor little turtle didn't know what happened, and Chu Xu opened his mouth and ate it into his still slightly hot mouth. A cool and refreshing feeling belonging to aquatic creatures immediately filled his mouth, which was very satisfying. Moreover, as a turtle, the Hutchinson's turtle's shell is not as hard as a tortoise shell. It breaks when bitten. The meat is tender and juicy, and the taste is sweet and delicious, which makes the dragon's cheeks fragrant. Delicious. Although this little turtle is only worth 5 evolution points, its taste is enough to rank in the top 3 of Chu Xu's current diet. There's a bigger turtle over there. At this time, Chu Xu's telepathic perception found that there was another bigger turtle roaming in the river not far away. It was a nearly 2-meter-long axe turtle, a large freshwater turtle, weighing roughly 300 kilograms, much larger than the later spotted turtle. Just in time to test the power of my new trick on you. Chapter 47 Anyone who offends my Tyrannosaurus Rex will be punished no matter how far away he is. Please read and recommend. Just in time to test the power of my new trick on you. Chu Xu quietly came to the riverbank closest to the axe turtle, and a raging flame was brewing in his mouth. A few seconds later, Chu Xu suddenly opened his mouth and spit out flames, which exploded the moment they touched the surface of the river. Small explosion. At the moment the flame exploded, a huge deep pit was blown out on the surface of the river, accompanied by splashes of water. The shock wave formed by the explosion spread rapidly with water as the medium, further sweeping up the violently vibrating waves, throwing the axe turtle in the range high up, and finally falling heavily on the riverbank. Although it was not directly affected by the explosion of the small explosion, the subsequent shock wave formed in the river still caused the axe turtle to suffer considerable damage. It fell to the ground motionless and fainted. At this time, Chu Xu also felt that his mouth and throat were so hot that they were almost smoking. It seems that although this small explosion is powerful, It cannot be used many times in a short period of time, and the energy consumption is also very high. Everything must be done in moderation, just like game skills also have CDs. Small explosions can only be used 3 times in a short period of time. If you use more than that, it will easily endanger yourself. Anyway, the new trick has almost been mastered. Chu Xu is in a good mood and enjoys this delicious big turtle breakfast. It is said that turtles have special effects such as nourishing yin and strengthening yang, prolonging life, and have high medicinal value. However, Chu Xu is still far from sexual maturity and has to wait until after adolescence. Moreover, Tyrannosaurus Rex is an absolute short-lived ghost. According to the later research of paleontologists on its bone fossils, the average lifespan of Tyrannosaurus Rex is only 16.6 years old. The longest-lived Tyrannosaurus Rex found so far only lived to 28 years old. Most Tyrannosaurus Rex did not live to sexual maturity at around 15 to 16 years old and died for various reasons. Even if the remaining small number of Tyrannosaurus Rex survived hardships and reached sexual maturity, they would not have many years left. As the saying goes, when God closes a door for you, He will definitely open a window for you. On the other hand, if God opens a door for you, He will definitely close a window for you. The Creator did the same to the Tyrannosaurus Rex, creating a top land predator body for it, which is enough to dominate the world after adulthood. But it also limited its lifespan. Even the strongest and longest-lived Tyrannosaurus Rex could not live beyond 30 years old. After reaching the peak, it would fall like a comet and usher in the end. Chu Xu estimated that Long Ma was only in her early 20s. In human society, she was still a pure and stupid college student, but she was already a senior with rich experience in the Tyrannosaurus Rex race. Chu Xu was not worried about his lifespan. Now he was no longer an ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex. The lifespan limit was broken. If he continued to evolve, his lifespan would become longer and longer. However, Long Ma, Xianyu and Liuxing were still ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex. If one day they left the dragon world before Chu Xu, they would inevitably feel sad and lonely. Perhaps there would be a chance in the future to let them embark on the extraordinary evolutionary path like himself. In the next few days, Chu Xu continued to go out hunting alone, and searched for the traces of the dwarf Tyrannosaurus in the new territory of the Dragon Mother. However, there was no trace of it, and it should have completely escaped. But no matter how far it escaped, Chu Xu would catch it sooner or later. This is called, those who offend my Tyrannosaurus will be punished no matter how far away they are. In the evening, a drizzle fell in the coastal forest. The water droplets gathered into beads on the treetops, like sparkling pearls hanging on the branches, adding a touch of luxury and beauty to this quiet rainy world. The drizzle could not hinder the activities of various animals. This time period was the peak period of various herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs. They could be seen everywhere in the forest fighting for their lives. Groups of Stygian raptors were relentlessly chasing a lone Stygian Struthiomimus. Although the Stygian Struthiomimus ran very fast with a pair of sprinting legs, it could not get rid of these Stygian raptors. It was unknown how long this marathon tug-of-war would last until one of them gave up first. A crocodile dragon lurking in the lake stared at a group of Stygian geese that came to drink water and look for food. The next second, the lake's surface suddenly exploded. The crocodile dragon, which was more than 3 meters long, bit the nearest Stygian goose and dragged it into the water to drown it alive. The other frightened Stygian geese flapped their wings and fled in all directions, but soon stopped not far away and curiously watched the crocodile dragon enjoying their companions. There was also a group of opportunistic Quetzalcoatlus, flying low in the sky while searching for opportunities on the ground. Counting the days, today is Chu Xu's first birthday. Unknowingly, a year has passed since he was reborn as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. During this period, he experienced many things, including skill training, first battle with rat-toothed beasts, moving to a new home, learning to hunt, independent hunting, first evolution, dry season migration, territory competition, dwarf Tyrannosaurus attacks, and new trick development. This year's experience is really rich and colorful, and Chu Xu, who already loves dinosaurs, has a deeper understanding of the wild charm of this world. Although dinosaurs don't have the concept of birthdays, Chu Xu also wants to commemorate this special day. Today, he decided to hunt a big guy as a birthday gift. After careful selection, Chu Xu found a group of old friends, Edmontosaurus. He was quite familiar with this group of Edmontosaurus. They migrated from the north just like his family. I remember that when Longma taught him to hunt for the first time, the target he chose was an adult Edmontosaurus. At that time, an adult Edmontosaurus was a huge monster that Chu Xu dared not even think about. Now it seems that it is strong on the outside but weak on the inside, with only fat on its body. It's just a sign to sell it to Seoul. This group of Edmontosaurus happened to pass through Longma's territory and feed on plants here. Not long ago, a group of Edmontosaurus cubs were born. You can see many little guys who are not even as big as the paws of adult Edmontosaurus playing and fighting under the care of their parents. Roar. This stability and tranquility were soon broken. Chu Xu, who had no intention of hiding his body, attacked like lightning and immediately startled the group of Edmontosaurus. However, the Edmontosaurus did not flee in panic like they did when they encountered the dragon mother before. In their eyes, Chu Xu was just a half-grown young Tyrannosaurus Rex, and there was no need to be afraid of him. Ugh! The leading Edmontosaurus stood up, puffed up its nose sack, and hissed at Chu Xu in a warning, as if to say that if he came over again, it would be rude to him. It's you. Chu Xu locked onto the Edmontosaurus leader who was shouting the loudest, and with a kick of his hind legs, he turned into a thunderbolt that fell from the sky and slammed down on it. Chapter 48, Meet the Wind God Pterosaur again. I'll go to Shudao Mountain. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. Bang! Before the Edmontosaurus leader could react, he suddenly felt his body sink. The young Tyrannosaurus Rex was riding on his back. Ah! The Edmontosaurus leader immediately ran and jumped like a frightened horse. Chu Xu stood still like a reef in the stormy waves. While firmly fixing his body, he bit the Edmontosaurus leader's neck with his flaming teeth. After a bite, the smell of barbecue came out with a hissing sound, and the aroma was fragrant. Such severe pain stimulated the Edmontosaurus leader to be horrified, jumping up and down, and wailing. Seeing the leader in such a miserable state, the other Edmontosaurus also became panic-stricken and hurriedly covered their children and retreated. These Edmontosaurus were far from being as united as the Triceratops, and they could not form a defensive formation to face the enemy together. They also had no means to attack and defeat the enemy. They just stared at Chu Xu and the Edmontosaurus leader not far away, completely at a loss. Chu Xu, riding on the back of the Edmontosaurus leader, completely took the initiative, constantly inflicting wounds on the opponent through the bites of his flaming teeth and the tearing of his flaming claws, and bleeding profusely. The Edmontosaurus leader, who was struggling violently, also consumed a lot of physical strength. As the blood flowed, his forelegs finally became weak, and his huge dragon body fell to the ground with a bang. It was not until this time that the other Edmontosaurus who were watching the show screamed and turned around and ran away. After knocking down the Edmontosaurus leader, the rest of the things were simple. Chu Xu turned over and landed, biting his neck again, and did not let go until he was completely dead. Hunting success. Although the process was not as clean and neat as the dragon mother, killing in one blow, it was still pretty good. Ling. You hunted an Edmontosaurus, evolution points plus 75. 75 evolution points. Chu Xu was overjoyed. It turned out that hunting such large herbivorous dinosaurs was more profitable. The birthday cake was ready. Chu Xu dragged the body of the Edmontosaurus and prepared to take it home to celebrate with Longma, Xianyu and Liu Xing. Not long after they walked a short distance, several old friends from the sky came to celebrate with him after seeing Chu Xu's birthday cake. Quetzalcoatlus. Several huge shadows were projected down like dark clouds. Chu Xu raised his head, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his eyes showed strong murderous intent. The visitors were none other than several Quetzalcoatlus with mohawk-style crowns on their heads, long cone-shaped beaks, and a pair of membranous wings that covered the sky. It was really a coincidence. After Longma hunted the Edmontosaurus, she also encountered a small group of Quetzalcoatlus on her way home. This scene is just like that scene, except that Chu Xu is no longer the weak Tyrannosaurus cub who could only cling to his mother's thighs. A total of 3 Quetzalcoatlus of different sizes hovered over Chu Xu's head like a ghost, and their huge beaks opened and closed to make hoarse cries like a broken gong, and their huge wings cast shadows of death. In North America at the end of the Cretaceous period, Quetzalcoatlus was divided into 2 different species. One was the smaller Quetzalcoatlus lowii, with a wingspan of about 5 to 6 meters. It mainly lived in large waters, such as lakes and inland seas, and preyed on fish and insects. Its diet was similar to that of the previous pterosaurs. The other was the larger Quetzalcoatlus nauseus, with a wingspan of more than 10 meters, twice the size of the former. Its body structure was not suitable for activities in large waters, so it mainly lived on land, preying on small dinosaurs, birds, amphibians, and mammals, and it also accepted carrion. The Quetzalcoatlus pterosaurs that appeared in front of him were large Quetzalcoatlus nostra. Chu Xu sniffed through his nose and felt that the breath of these Quetzalcoatlus pterosaurs was quite familiar. This showed that they were probably the Quetzalcoatlus pterosaurs that he met in Long Ma's old territory more than half a year ago. It's really a narrow road for enemies. They can meet again even though they are separated by half of North America. To this day, he still remembers the roars and greedy faces of these Quetzalcoatlus pterosaurs. God has eyes and let Chu Xu meet these old friends again. He must use the new tricks he just practiced to thank them for coming from afar to celebrate his birthday. Chu Xu was not overwhelmed by anger and hatred. These Quetzalcoatlus pterosaurs have been hovering more than 10 meters in the sky, and his skills are temporarily out of reach. If he wants to catch them all in one fell swoop, he must lure them to the ground first. Duh. The Quetzalcoatlus screamed at Chu Xu, intending to intimidate and warn Chu Xu, so that he would give up the prey. At present, Chu Xu was already quite big, and they did not dare to easily regard him as a hunting target. Chu Xu pretended to be angry and roared at the Quetzalcoatlus a few times, then abandoned the body of the Edmontosaurus leader and turned to evacuate. After driving Chu Xu away, the Quetzalcoatlus folded their huge wings and slowly landed on the ground. After landing on the ground, they walked on the front claws at the end of a pair of wings and slender hind legs. When they stood upright, they were more than 5 meters tall, comparable to a giraffe. The Quetzalcoatlus came step by step to the body of the Edmontosaurus leader and began to feast on it. Their long cone-shaped beaks were extremely sharp, enough to easily penetrate the rough skin of the Edmontosaurus and tear off its flesh and blood to devour. Such a fresh and alive adult Edmontosaurus is a rare feast for the Quetzalcoatlus. After all, they don't have the ability to hunt large herbivorous dinosaurs. On weekdays, they can only pick up rotten and smelly leftovers. At the same time, Chu Xu, who had abandoned the prey and turned around to evacuate, had quietly returned by a detour. Eat, after this last meal, I will send you to the west. Chu Xu locked his eyes on the three smug and relaxed Quetzalcoatlus and sneered secretly. It's almost time, I will go to Shudao Mountain. 1, 2, 3. Shoo! Chu Xu launched a surprise attack. The moment he started, the majestic power gathered in his feet, and he crushed the ground with 1 foot. Moving at high speed, launching a catapult, quiet as a virgin, moving like a cunning rabbit. The nearest Quetzalcoatlus was still eating, but Chu Xu suddenly jumped on it and pounced on its back. Although the Quetzalcoatlus was so tall, it actually had a long and thin neck. Its back was about 2 meters high, and Chu Xu could just reach it with his front paws. Duh. Chu Xu's weight of more than 1 ton and the power of jumping and killing were superimposed on the back of the Quetzalcoatlus, like a mountain pressing down on its head. Its seemingly huge but hollow body could not bear the weight at all, and it collapsed to the ground in an instant, screaming like a chicken being slaughtered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Eating their flesh when hungry and drinking their blood when thirsty, how joyful. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. Like birds, Quetzalcoatlus has hollow bones and thin bone beams, which form a lightweight honeycomb structure, so that although it is large in appearance, it weighs only 500 kilograms. This honeycomb structure can not only greatly reduce its weight, but also improve the toughness and strength of the bones, so as to better adapt to flight. However, when it came to land, Quetzalcoatlus had to face dinosaurs whose weight easily exceeded tons. The pressure of tonnage was no joke. Roar! It was not until it was thrown to the ground that Quetzalcoatlus reacted. It turned out that the young Tyrannosaurus Rex did not leave, but came around to attack it. But it was too late for it to react now. Chu Xu bit the slender neck of Quetzalcoatlus without saying anything, and the raging anger burned between his teeth. The bite force that was doubled exploded, crushing the hollow cervical vertebrae without hindrance, until the upper and lower jaws completely touched each other, so that its head and neck were separated, close yet far away. Bang! The next second, Half of the neck of the Quetzalcoatlus and the heavy head supported on it fell from a height of more than 5 meters, hitting the ground with a loud sound. Roar. Feeling the hot blood filling his mouth, Chu Xu roared heartily, his blood boiling. What a sky overlord! In fact, it is just a fragile one, vulnerable. From Chu Xu's attack on the upper body to the Quetzalcoatlus' neck being broken and head being cut off, it took less than 10 seconds. Everything was like lightning, so that the other two Quetzalcoatlus did not notice Chu Xu's appearance until their companion was dead. The two Quetzalcoatlus, whose beaks were stained with blood, saw this scene and cried out in shock and anger. They did not expect that this young Tyrannosaurus Rex would come back and kill one of their companions. One of the Quetzalcoatlus suddenly stepped forward, stretched out its 2-meter-long cone-shaped beak, and bit Chu Xu fiercely. The lethality of this attack is extraordinary. If a small or medium-sized dinosaur is hit, it may be turned into a dinosaur meat skewer. Chu Xu was naturally not stupid enough to resist. With a flick of his body, he had already jumped dozens of meters away at an extraordinary speed. The second Quetzalcoatlus' attack missed, and it looked down at Chu Xu, the little dragon, and let out an angry cry. Unexpectedly, Chu Xu took the initiative to rush over again with big strides, and the speed was so fast that the Quetzalcoatlus' naked eyes could not keep up, let alone see clearly. Crash! With multiple strength added to his body, Chu Xu's muscles and bones swelled, his membranes filled, and his bones cracked. The surface of the ground was shattered by his continuous trampling, rumbling and plowing a deep gully. There was a dull bang. Chu Xu hit the hind limbs used by the second Quetzalcoatlus to support its body, breaking its tibia and fibula like a rotten wood, causing it to lose balance immediately, and its huge body tilted to one side and finally fell to the ground. Roar. As soon as the second Quetzalcoatlus fell to the ground, Chu Xu quickly flew up like a shadow. It was still a bloody mouth that could crush bones and bodies. The bloody banana fangs covered the liquid armor and bit violently at its fragile neck. Blood splattered and wailed loudly. At this moment, Chu Xu was madly releasing himself. He used to be extremely weak and could only survive under the protection of the Dragon Mother. Now he has grown up enough to stand on his own. Facing an enemy that once seemed invincible, he can also eat its flesh and drink its blood. How happy! After screaming, the second Quetzalcoatlus also died in Chu Xu's mouth without any suspense. The blood spurting from the broken neck completely stained his body, as if he was a real killer from the river of hell. The last remaining Quetzalcoatlus was so scared that his soul was about to die. He screamed and spread his wings, and flew away in a panic. The Quetzalcoatlus pterosaur has a strong flying ability. With a push of its well-developed and dense forelimb muscles, it can immediately launch from the ground and take off like a diver jumping from a springboard. Then it flaps a pair of huge wing membranes, allowing it to quickly adjust the shape of its wings during flight, thereby obtaining huge lift during the takeoff acceleration phase and soaring into the sky in one fell swoop. Although this membranous wing is not as flexible as birds and bats among mammals, it has a high degree of aerodynamics and is especially suitable for gliding. It can easily fly long distances with the help of air currents without much effort. Want to run? Can you run? Chu Xu looked at the last Quetzalcoatlus pterosaur that had already launched and was about 2 or 3 meters above the ground. It seemed to think that it had escaped from danger and could breathe a sigh of relief. Huh? Little did he know that a raging flame had already brewed in the depths of Chu Xu's throat. Just as the Quetzalcoatlus pterosaur was about to flap its wings and fly away, it opened its big mouth and suddenly sprayed out. Small explosion. The scorching fireball shot up into the sky, drawing a bright red arc, and hit the huge membrane-like wing of the wind god pterosaur. Bang! As soon as the fireball touched the wings of the wind god pterosaur, it exploded in the air, like a brilliant firework. The hot flames engulfed half of the wings of the wind god pterosaur, burning them to rot and char. Its entire body was blown away by the impact of the explosion, and soon fell back to the ground like a kite with a broken string. After landing, the wind god pterosaur was undoubtedly a lamb to be slaughtered. Chu Xu walked step by step towards the desperate and wailing wind god pterosaur. In comparison, his tiny body was extremely terrifying in the eyes of the latter. Finally, Chu Xu took a bite and also bit the cervical vertebrae, ending the life of the wind god pterosaur again. Whoosh, 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 a gust of wind whistled past, flying sand and rocks, and the field was dead silent. 3 huge Quetzalcoatlus corpses lay on the ground, all in the same state of death, with their heads and necks separated and blood pooling. You hunted a Quetzalcoatlus Norris, evolution points plus 80. x3 240 evolution points received. Chu Xu was very excited. He had gained more than 300 evolution points today alone, which was definitely an unprecedented harvest. He was very satisfied with today's birthday party. It took a lot of effort for Chu Xu to transport all the spoils of today back home. This big scene shocked the mother of dragons, the crescent moon, and Liu Xing, who were still recovering from their injuries. An adult Edmontosaurus, and 3 Quetzalcoatlus? The corpses piled together could form a small mountain. Come on, let's divide the cake. Mother of dragons will eat the biggest Edmontosaurus, and you two can choose any Quetzalcoatlus. Chu Xu generously distributed food to Mother of Dragons and the others, ensuring that they would have enough to eat. The Mother of Dragons ate the Edmontosaurus, and Xianyu and Liu Xing shared a Quetzalcoatlus. They all seemed to remember the intimidation and bullying by the Quetzalcoatlus in the past, and they bit the Quetzalcoatlus in revenge. Liu Xing was particularly fond of its buttocks and ate it with relish. Chu Xu also wanted to taste the Quetzalcoatlus, but this guy was very similar to the Ankylosaurus, with very little meat. It was just a big skeleton. The largest membranous wing was a layer of membrane attached to the limb bones, like chicken ribs, tasteless to eat, and a pity to throw away. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 50, Preparation for Independent Living? Challenge the Hell Aquarium. Seeking follow-up recommendation votes. Time flies, and 2 months have passed since Chu Xu and his family settled in the new territory. The wounds of the Dragon Mother's previous battle with the young Tyrannosaurus Rex have healed, and she continues to go out hunting with the unskilled Xianyu and Liu Xing. Chu Xu still goes out hunting alone, but he goes home less and less often staying out for 2 or 3 days or even longer. For some reason, as his age and physical development continue to grow, the idea of independence in his heart has become more and more dominant. Independence is something that most animals have to go through in the process of growing up, and many animals even have to rely on their own abilities to survive when they are born. Chu Xu is lucky. The newly reborn Tyrannosaurus Rex cub is powerless and weak. A random loose rat in the gutter can kill him. And he was able to grow to this point in just over a year under the feeding and protection of the Dragon Mother. Generally, Tyrannosaurus Rex cubs will be driven out by their mothers after the end of their infancy, that is, when they are 4 to 5 years old, and start to live independently. Although Chu Xu's real age is only a little over 1 year old, his actual physical development has already exceeded the juvenile stage. It is estimated that Longma never understood the reason. She didn't know whether to continue to feed and protect him or to drive him away. She simply ignored it and let Chu Xu go. All good things must come to an end. Chu Xu knew that sooner or later he would have to leave Longma and the others and live an independent life. However, he couldn't help but feel a little reluctant. After all, many animals no longer have any connection with their parents after living independently, and they may even become enemies when they meet again. Forget it, let it go. The most urgent task now is to collect 1,000 evolution points and complete the second evolution. Chu Xu shook his head, threw away his messy thoughts, and checked his attribute panel with a thought. Name, Chu Xu. Age, 1 year and 2 months. Race, Agumon. Male. Growth stage, juvenile. 4-dimensional attributes, Strength 1000, Agility 1000, Constitution 1000, Spirit 1000, Evolution points 100, Skills, Flame Claw, Flame Fang, Flash Charge, High Speed Movement, Special Moves, Small Flame, Small Explosion. Achievements, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Elementary, Telepathic Perception, Elementary, Fluid Armament, Elementary. Next evolution form, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Compared to 2 months ago, Chu Xu's 4-dimensional attributes have more than doubled, breaking through 4 digits, and finally reached the upper limit of the juvenile stage, and temporarily unable to add points. Only 1,000 more evolution points are needed to complete the second evolution. Now Chu Xu's body size has reached the physical development of a 14-year-old juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex, with a body length of 5 meters, a head height of 2.5 meters, and a weight of more than 2 tons. After entering adolescence, his body will officially usher in the golden period of the wild growth of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then there will be a new world. In the past few days, Chu Xu did not go home, but kept hunting outside to collect evolution points, hoping to collect 1,000 evolution points as soon as possible. Perhaps because of Chu Xu's reckless actions, the herbivorous dinosaurs in the new territory of the Dragon Mother were scared away, and now there are very few targets to find. It's too inefficient to try your luck aimlessly like this. If you want to collect evolution points quickly, it seems that you can only go there. Chu Xu thought for a moment and made a decision. Go to the shallow sea beyond the horizon, that is, the notorious Western Inland Seaway. In terms of quantity, marine life is far more than land life, and of course its danger is also higher. Chu Xu has made psychological preparations. Fortune is sought in danger. He believes that he has the ability to protect himself. As long as he is careful and cautious, and doesn't go too deep, there should be no problem. After making up his mind, Chu Xu left Longma's new territory and walked along the main channel of the Missouri River to the end of the horizon. In the evening, the sun set in the west, and the afterglow of the sunset enveloped the surface of the shallow sea, tinged with a layer of orange and yellow. The breeze rolled up layers of waves, and a group of dusk birds floated among the undulating waves. These dusk birds are less than 2 meters long. At first glance, they look like penguins in later generations. They also have no ability to fly and their wings have completely degenerated. However, dusk birds are absolute diving and fishing masters. Their pair of hind legs are like paddles, and their streamlined bodies can swim quickly in the sea water. Their huge eyes can see the movements of the fish under the clear seawater with the help of the afterglow. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Accompanied by the sound of entering the water one after another, dusk birds bared their heads and dived under the sea surface, dispersing the mixed fish, and opened their beaks to swallow one small fish after another. At this moment, a dazzling silver light flashed in the seawater not far away. Seeing this, the dusk birds that were diving for fish hurriedly gave up the delicious food in their mouths and tried desperately to swim to the coast. The dusk birds swam very fast, but the silver light moved faster. It was only when it got closer that it could be seen clearly that it was a swordfish with a hideous appearance. Swordfish, the notorious #1 bully in the Hell Aquarium, is a large carnivorous bony fish of the beggarfish family. Its overall shape is like a spindle-shaped torpedo, with a body length of more than 5 meters and a weight of up to 500 kilograms, which is comparable to the large sharks of later generations. A pair of pectoral fins stretched straight to both sides like sword blades, and its big mouth was full of jagged nail-like teeth, all protruding out of its mouth, looking extremely ferocious. Plop. A dusk bird that had almost escaped to the coast was still caught up by the swordfish with amazing speed. The sharp fangs pierced through the body of the dusk bird, dyeing the surrounding seawater with a faint blood red. The dusk bird had nowhere to escape and was dragged back into the sea by the swordfish, and entered the latter's stomach from head to toe. Hiss. Is it so exciting just after coming here? Chu Xu, who had just arrived at the shallow sea coast, happened to see the dusk bird being preyed by the swordfish. The latter's hideous and ugly face was extremely clear and eye-catching. It really deserves to be called the Hell Aquarium. Such a struggle between life and death is almost played out in the seemingly calm seawater every moment. Standing on the coast, Chu Xu looked around and saw that the sea stained by the afterglow of the setting sun was like a boiling golden water, vast and boundless. The sea surface extended forward from the shore and connected with the sunset. Above the sea, pterosaurs and birds fly in the sky. Under the sea, finned dragons and fish swim and leap. This is really a paradise of strange things and mixed fish and dragons. Even the dinosaur tyrant Tyrannosaurus Rex, who is used to being domineering on land, dare not easily set foot in it. And this paradise is the target that Chu Xu wants to challenge. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.